did this big jump, like 220 foot, I think it was. And on the landing, my wrist, like the bone collapsed on itself. And I didn't realize, but the bone was actually starting to die over like the 6-month period because it got disconnected from the blood supply. It started dying. Anyway, long story short, it collapsed on itself. So then I had to need another surgery to put like the bone out and then a prosthetic bone in. And so that was 3 months ago now. And apparently it's like, if this surgery doesn't work, then the next option is to take all of my wrist bones out and put basically like a metal ball and socket in my wrist.
Hi and welcome to the Riders Lounge podcast. I'm Steve Summerfeld, your host for this podcast series, where I'm lucky to catch up with one of the world's best freestyle motocross riders and someone who's definitely got a bright future ahead of him, despite the issues he currently has with an almost career-ending wrist injury right now. This episode, we catch up with Pat Bowden. As one of Australia's best freestyle motocross exports and with many more years left up his sleeve, I think you're about to get an insight into the mind of someone who's on that edge of FMX greatness. While he has had some big wins, like at the Nitro World Games a couple of years ago, and having a trick list longer than your arm and certainly more than he can fill his bar pad with, Pat unfortunately has had some bad luck come his way on more than one occasion, but the true sign of a champion is getting back up and carrying on, and it seems like nothing is really getting in Pat's way on his path to the top, or wherever his path may lead him. It turns out there's a lot more to Pat Bowden than you may already know, and if this is your first Riders Lounge podcast episode that you've ever tuned into, then you'll probably be surprised to hear that actually Pat designed the logo for the podcast before the first episode even came out. I actually have no creativity whatsoever when it comes to designs, so I asked Pat way back at the start if he had any ideas, and he shot through his designs, and what you're looking at right now was the first thing that he sent through, and it was awesome. So I have to say a huge thanks to Pat for that. And I'm guessing designing isn't his number one priority, as he is a full-time freestyle motocross rider, which would be why you're here listening to this podcast right now to try and understand what makes him tick. But actually, he does have his own graphics company as a little bit of a side hustle called PB Creative. So if you have any design work you're looking to have done, and maybe Pat has a little bit of time up his sleeve, maybe he can do some custom work for you. It's pretty cool to have some of the best riders involved in this podcast, and I just want to say another thanks because if you heard the Javier Villegas episode a couple of episodes ago, released in March 2021, you'll have heard him coming up with a new music for the podcast, which started this episode off as well, and you'll also hear the guitar riffs from Adam Jones, who was also on the podcast way back in July 2020, so thanks a lot to all of those guys. And actually, while I'm on the big thanks to guys that have helped out, Martin from Dead Sailor, because a lot of the videos that I'll be putting up on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, or whatever, with some of Pat's best quotes from this podcast, and actually there's a lot of videos that I'll put up from other podcasts as well. They've all come from Martin, who is our main camera guy at Night of the Jumps. So for Pat's, I think they're videos from Germany and Switzerland in 2018 and 19. He is our main video man at the events. And now that I'm starting to do a little bit of video work, I have so much more appreciation for how long it takes to do that sort of stuff. So thank you very much to Martin at Dead Sailor for sending those through. And actually, you'll be able to listen to this episode directly from the ridersloungepodcast.com website, which has just gone up not too long ago, and it has been built by my longest supporter in freestyle motocross, Lakes Networking. I only asked for a super simple website because I really don't have time to be wasted updating things or even trying to design that as well in the first place. So I'd say they nailed it. It's not hard to work it out. Just go onto my website, ridersloungepodcast.com, and you can find Lakes Networking if you're a small business or you've got your own different projects that you're doing on the side as well. Maybe they can build the site for you and make it so much easier. And something else that you should be able to find on the ridersloungepodcast.com website, yeah, I've said it again, is the link to go directly to the Rothaus Brewery in Germany to get your first taste test of some of the best damn beers in the world. And while we wait for the world to get back to normal, and before you can go on a tour of the brewery, for now, it's easiest to try the Tannenzapfler alcohol-free beer by ordering them online and testing them at home. And if you get the sudden urge to post some pictures on the gram, tag me in it. Actually, before we get into this, I just want to remind you, if you are listening to this on your phone or computer, you can click to follow the series or the whole podcast, and you'll get notifications of the new episodes, but also that you can download the old episodes that you have missed and catch up on some pretty good interviews. And you can listen to them while you're driving to work or shoveling that new line at your favorite riding spot, and you've got nothing else to listen to. Right, well, let's get stuck into this episode. This is Pat Bowden, where we cover almost everything. The highs, the lows, and the business of being an action sports athlete and what that entails, and also just finding out what makes one of the best riders in the world tick.
This is how I'm going to start the podcast. Ready?
All right, okay, you're going to do it. I'm going to let you go for it. You can host this thing if you want.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple. It's just, all it is cracked a freshie.
Oh, nice.
Because
Better be a Rothaus.
Don't you have a beer sponsor?
I do. And
yeah, so it's probably only fitting to grab one.
Oh, mate, it's
Hey,
10
what
in the
time is it?
morning. 10 in the morning over here. I did call Javier out for that, saying he should have an alcohol-free at least at 10 in the
Well,
morning.
there you go, mate. You got to practice what you preach.
Yeah, I'll have to go find myself a Rothaus 10.
Because the way I pictured this podcast was, I thought we were just going to have, a couple of beverages, have a chat. I didn't know you were going to be all like professional and whatnot.
Mate, that's me. I am professional.
Yeah.
But it is, like I said, I've only just got out of bed. Like, I've just got out of bed, turned the computer on, had a few messages from you. And
you gotta live though,
Yeah, that's it. Hang on. I should have one in the back here. I've got my little drinks cabinet. Right.
There we go.
Right, we're doing it. Okay. Beer time. I'm going to leave this coffee to go cold, and I'm just going to have a beer. So
yeah,
there you go.
Screw the coffee. May as well just have a beer.
Right, and so was that your intro?
I think so. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'm happy with that. That was a good intro.
Hell yeah.
You could probably do this for a living, mate.
Podcasts, just a couple of beers. Nah, because to be honest with you, this is my only beer that I have. I found it in the back of my fridge. I'm not a big drinker.
Oh, okay. Oh,
but I thought I know that, I don't know. I know that being German now.
Yeah, I don't mind a beer, so.
Yeah, it's fitting. I don't have any champagne, unfortunately.
Oh, man. Well, of course you wouldn't have champagne because you've given it all to Rach, which in turn goes into me. So
yeah, small inside joke there, obviously, but
go on, explain why I end up with the champagne.
So I was never a big fan of champagne. I never actually tried it before, but every time we do Night of the Jumps, and every time that I'd win it, I just give it to Rachel, your misso, and she seemed to be pretty happy with it. And I was like, I wonder why she's so happy about getting all this free champagne. Like, I didn't think anything of it until the time that I tried it, and I was like, oh, I get it. This is actually pretty good. and then I kind of stopped giving the champagne to Rachel after that. And
Gee, I wonder why.
party, I'd take it back to the hotel room and we'd drink it before the after party.
Ah, that's why you're all buzzed coming down on the way out the door to go to the next after party. You've just necked a bottle of champagne in your room.
Oh, far out, yeah. Funny stories though. We got some funny stories, don't we?
But it was awesome. It was so good you not drinking, and it always worked out really well for me. So because once we've finished the show, I've then got to do the wrap up highlights video with the video team, and
Yeah.
generally by the end of the night, my voice is gone, my brain's done. I'm just over it. Not over it, but you're just so exhausted and tired. And your champagne always gets me through that last 15 minutes of recording, and I'm like,
Oh, is that how you do it? That's
yeah.
I assumed you'd be going
absolutely.
back. I assumed that you'd be going back and running a warm bath and
No, that
throwing some
bottle
rose
is
petals around.
no, that does sound nice. But no, that basically gets me gets the creative juices flowing again to finish off the last video. And it's like, oh wow, here we were in Berlin and Pat Bowden's won another best whip competition. I have to find new ways to say that you won best whip. So that champagne definitely does help.
Yeah.
But, mate,
what's been going on with you anyway?
What's been going on here? Well, the same thing that's been going on for about a year, mate. I'm sitting here
Germany?
Well, the snow has melted. We had another little snowstorm the other day. I'm just looking out my window, looking at the crappy weather, and actually, Rach told me the news this morning is we go back into another harsh lockdown, I think, from next... Oh, maybe it's this Thursday, or maybe next Thursday. I don't know. But yeah. So apparently even supermarkets are shutting down for like a week. That's what she just read this morning. So yeah, there you go.
Shit, well, let's try to keep it positive. I don't want to talk about COVID too much, but yeah, I just hope that everything's all good over there because I don't watch the news or I don't really know what is even going on in my own country right now. So I'm just focusing on what I'm doing.
There's big floods. There's big floods back there in Australia, if you haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I'm flooded in at the moment.
Are ya?
Yeah, like not fully, but one of the roads to my house is fully underwater.
Oh, there you go.
Can't drive on it. And then the other one, if it keeps raining, the other one will go under. But I can't complain. Like some of the other boys, like down in Sydney, like Josh has fully lost his compound, fully underwater, and all his ramps have been washed into the river.
No way.
Yeah, like no joke. He sent me a photo this morning, and all his ramps are like at least 3 meters, maybe 4 meters underwater. They're probably not even there anymore because the Hawkesbury River overflowed.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy.
Holy shit.
Devastating.
That is not, I mean, I saw the video of somebody's house drifting down the river for a kilometer. And apparently that dude and his missus, well, almost missus, they were getting married that day and their house got washed down the river. The one positive I saw out of that video was whoever built that house did a damn fine job because it stayed in one piece as it was just cruising down the river. It was unreal. So yeah, the joy of Australia, man.
I guess the footings weren't real good though.
Yeah, they built a great house, forgot the cement for the footings.
Yeah.
Is crazy, actually where you did like there was a train video and some riding that happened the other day. Is that Josh's compound?
Yep.
Is it? Because
that's not Josh's compound, but that's like it's like he's got permission to ride there, but that's actually the compound that started it all. Like that compound when I was 15, 16, that's where I met Josh and Ash Will from Aussie Adrenaline, Josh from Freestyle Kings, and Josh's brother Ben Hanna. Like that's where we all met for the first time. And it's crazy. Like there's so much history out at that place. Like I remember the very first year Nitro Circus came to Australia, we had like Jim DeChamp and Hubert the Redneck come out, and that was back when Jim DeChamp was practicing the front flip. We had like a little sketchy foam pit out there, and Jim came out and tried the front flip before going and like landed on his back, and like
Oh yeah.
so yeah, and then like I was just a little kid, like I'd hit my first ever ramps out there, so that was like we've got like heaps of old footage from back in the day, and then but then like fast forward 10 years, like I done my first front flip out there, my first back flip, like Josh now is like bringing up the next like Rye. Have you seen that new rider Rye Davies? I think his name is.
Yeah.
He came
Rides a
out
lot
there the
with
other day. He was riding, and it's cool to see because he's the same age that I was when I first went out there. So it's like it's
That's
kind of
cool.
like passing the torch on and bringing like the next generation of riders up.
Awesome.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
Man.
but now that the floods hit, all the ramps are probably gone, and it's a little bit devastating. But
Yeah, that's crazy because just yesterday or the day before, I saw there was like a drone video that someone put up, and I just shared it on the stories. I'm like, man, if that was my block of land, I'd just build my house there, and you'd never see me again. It looks so nice, tucked away like
so
a little jungle.
Yeah,
Man.
and then the river's right next to it, so you can go like swimming, wakeboarding, and yeah, it's really cool. And it's in the middle of nowhere. You have to catch a ferry to get there. Like it's full.
What?
Yeah,
To go for a ride?
Yeah, you full have to drive your car onto the ferry, and then the ferry takes like at least 15 minutes to get across the river, and then you drive for like another 10 minutes, and then it's like on a dirt road. It's like crazy. It's like real hard to get to.
Man, you would not want to. Don't want to go negative here, but you wouldn't want to crash your brains out and be bleeding out. And you're waiting for an ambulance to get across on a ferry, and he's just got to wait.
Yeah. I guess you just get a helicopter though.
Yeah,
because it's probably only like an hour from the city, or probably like 20 minutes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Pretty interesting spot. It's where they did the Red Bull cliff diving out there, and yeah, it's a pretty nice area.
That's cool. Well, I hope his ramps can be found again and salvageable.
Yeah,
actually, I'm just like, when you said about that, I remember when there was a massive flood came through our little hometown up at Tyro, and we had 2 tractors down on like the river flats, and there was a guy who used to live in the old railway station, like you had to run out and put the thing down so you couldn't drive across when a train came, and he could see the river coming up, and he ran down, and he got the biggest tractor up the hill. By the time he went to go back down, like the creek had flooded, so he couldn't cross. And so our little Massey Ferguson, he's like,
"Did you say it'll be Massive Ferguson?"
Little Massey Ferguson. Sorry, it's my Aussie accent, mate. And yeah, he's like, oh well, it'll be fine. And then when the flood disappeared after like 2 weeks or something, and the waters went down, like, where the hell is the fucking tractor? And it had got washed away. It was gone down into the bottom of the river. Yeah, it took Dad ages to get that thing out of the river, and then probably, I don't know how long it took him to rebuild it. But
did he get it going?
Yeah, he got it going. Never went the same again, but he did get it going.
No way. So, that's crazy.
Yeah, little old Massey Ferguson. She just kept on going. So yeah, hopefully Josh's place isn't too bad. So, but yeah, I mean the big news out of all this, apart from Australia being under a flood right now, you're back on the bike sooner than expected.
Breaking news, you could say.
Breaking news. Like when we were talking only a couple of weeks ago or something, you were like, "Oh, I guess I'm out for another 6 months or something like that."
Yeah. True.
So what happened? Did you magically heal up?
I think the motivator was Josh hit me up and he's like, "Hey, we're having a ride day, Freestyle Kings ride day down in Sydney in like a couple of weeks." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that was like the motivator to get back on the bike. And I don't know, like I went and did some mountain bike riding and it felt all right. And I'm like, I reckon I could probably jump. Like if I strap my wrist up, I could probably jump. So I was like, I'll come down, see the boys, and I'll drive there. From where I live to Sydney is like a 700-kilometer drive. So I just went on a bit of a road trip down there, and I put my bike on the back of my car, and I was like, I'll take it. I might not ride, but we'll see what happens. And then all the boys were at the compound gearing up, and I was like, I was like, not really fussed. I was like, if I ride, I ride, I don't. But I was like, I'll just put my gear on and see how it feels. And I ended up jumping, doing some flips and doing all my tricks. And my wrist didn't feel like really good. Like it's still a bit sore. So I told myself I'm just going to take like another month off until we got like my first events booked in with Josh, Freestyle Kings, on the 24th of April. So I've got like pretty much exactly a month. It's the 23rd today. So got a month left for it to heal. And then I think by that point I'll be good to go. But yeah, my wrist definitely is not what it used to be. I don't think it'll ever really be the same as it was, but the fact that I've already ridden now means that I know I can ride. So that's like a massive relief because it's been like a year and a half injury. It's been the biggest injury I've ever had. So, and like at one point I was like, my surgeon said to me, he's like, this is potentially career ending. And I'd never considered that because of when the accident happened. It just seemed like what didn't really seem that serious to me. I was like, oh, I don't know, I broke my wrist or whatever. I don't know. I'll just have a surgery, heal, it'll be all good. I didn't even consider for a second that maybe this could be it. I'm still not really in the clear either. Like, he said, like my wrist, because what happened was the bone died. My lunate bone got dislocated and like torn off all the surrounding cartilage and everything. And then, so I flew home to Australia from Germany, got the surgery, put it all back into place. And then it started healing. Everything was good. I was back at the gym, back riding. Oh no, sorry, not back riding, but it felt good. So I had my first ride back out at Callum Shaw's place and did this big jump, like 220 foot, I think it was. And on the landing, my wrist, like the bone collapsed on itself. And I didn't realize, but the bone was actually starting to die over like the 6-month period because it got disconnected from the blood supply. It started dying. Anyway, long story short, it collapsed on itself. So then I had to get another surgery to put like the bone out and then a prosthetic bone in. And so that was 3 months ago now. And apparently it's like, if this surgery doesn't work, then the next option is to take all of my wrist bones out and put basically like a metal ball and socket in my wrist.
What?
Yeah, then that's almost like game over in a way. Like it will never, from that, it's like, that's kind of like done. Not like, I'll still obviously do my best with what I've got, but it won't be like ideal, put it that way.
Holy shit. Well, that got out of hand fast.
Yeah, dude, just from like a bad batch of fuel, my bike bobbing on the ramp, almost like life over.
Man, I was just about to call bullshit on you driving down to Sydney with the bike on the back of the ute, and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to ride. Like, you didn't drive down 700 kilometers not going, oh, this is going to be so sick to ride. And then you're like, oh, no, look, I might be getting a fucking ball and socket joints, a metal one stuck in my wrist.
It was just because of how much time I've put into the recovery at this point. I'm like, I'm not in a rush really to get back on the bike because the last thing that I want is to have to spend any more time off doing what I love, So I'm like, at this point in time, I'm like fully willing to just wait. And it's not like the world's really back to normal yet anyway. So if there's any time to have a serious injury, like I couldn't have got any luckier.
That's
so,
exactly.
When did you crash? I crashed in I think it was the 15th of January, and COVID hit in like February. And I think I missed that one night of the jumps event. I missed that. So I've literally, in a year and a half, I've missed one event. But if it wasn't for COVID, I would have missed hundreds
everything.
Of everything. And I probably would have just been like in a deep depression, like suicidal by now, to be honest with you. So yeah, I don't know, it's like pretty. It's almost like I can't help but feel like it was like meant to be, maybe. For whatever reason, I don't know yet. But in hindsight, in the future, maybe I'll look back and be like, that was what I was meant to go through to learn whatever I learned. I don't know, but it's just a crazy coincidence.
Patience. To learn patience.
Yeah, true.
Man, it was crazy because up until that crash, so what'd you say, 20-something of January?
15th January.
15th of January, 2020. Up until then, you were pretty damn flat out. You were riding everywhere. You were on planes, crisscrossing the world. And then you turned up to a show and what seemed like a fairly It's not a normal crash. It sucks when your bike bogs and it turned out it was bad fuel, but it was a horrible looking crash in terms of you just coming up short and you just like looking at your wrist. And then when I heard what happened to your wrist, like it was kind of dislocated and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened like leading up to that. Were you on top of the world coming into that event? Was it something that was preventable? Like were you using like an old jerry can, or how did shitty fuel end up in your bike, which has then
So
caused the
yeah,
year and a
right.
half of pain?
So what I'm so to go back um, from 2015 basically to 2020, 5 year period, I was like pretty flat out, like at least 6 months of the year, like not consecutively, but averaged out over the year. Like say every month I was somewhere in the world, like traveling. If I had, I'd never done it, but if I could go back and tally up all the hours that I've spent on planes in the last 5 years, it would, oh, it would be like, it would be pretty, I would have to be up there with like the top 100 people in the world who spent the
Mate,
most hours on planes. Like it's almost an unhealthy amount of time I've spent on planes and in airports. But yeah, like it was crazy because it's like that's all I ever wanted to do was to travel and ride my dirt bike. But towards the end of 2019, I was like, honestly, I was getting really burnt out with traveling, and I was really just looking forward to taking some time off, and because it was taking its toll on my health and my relationships and my family and friends and just my life in general. So I was like, hell yeah. Um, I went over to Europe at the start of December, and I had like 5 events booked in every weekend for 5 weeks. And the last event that I had was Dortmund Supercross, which is where I dislocated my wrist. But the weekend before that was my first double flip, which I'd
ah,
been practicing for months before going to Europe. Sorry, I might have exaggerated. I didn't have 5 events. I had, I think, 3 or 4 events booked in. I'd learnt the double backflip back home in Australia, and then like every day for a month I was out in my airbag practicing the double flip. And then I flew over to Europe and I had 3 events booked in before I had to go and do the double flip. So there was like a decent amount of time with no practice and whatnot. So anyway, it was like a really stressful trip, one of the most stressful trips I've ever had to do because it was like this massive weight on my shoulders. I just wanted to get it
yeah.
out of the way and be done. And the last event of the year, I think it was like, yeah, end of December 19 was the double flip event. So I did it, landed it. It was like a massive weight off my shoulder. I was like, hell yeah, going home safe. We're done for the year. The last event is next weekend, which is start of January. And I'm going home safe, done. And then I'm going to go on holiday. So then coming into that last event, I was like, I've done this a million times. All it is like, I don't have to do anything out of my comfort zone. It's not even a comp, it's just a show. And in the lead up to doing the double flip, I'd made all these modifications to my bike and to my jetting and to like my airbox. Like for the people who know, you would have seen that my bike was like really stripped down. I'd taken all the plastics off and I had like this new subframe built and like a tiny little airbox because the
Oh,
bike would
cool.
spin faster through the air. Yeah. And anyway, so I had to change in Australia at that time. It was summer, so practicing in the middle of summer, it was like really hot and the air was really dense. So I had like a really particular air, like a jetting setting, so that the bike would run as best as it could with what I had. And then flying over to Europe to do the double flip, it was the middle of winter and it was like completely different. So I was struggling with this bike and I got it set up as best as I could for the double flip. But then the following week, going into this last event, sorry, I put all the original parts back on the bike and changed the jetting and stuff. But I guess maybe the air mixture was out a little bit, and or maybe the needle. I'm not 100% sure, but as far as I know, like it was pretty close to normal. And um, I remember like, yeah, I just went to this petrol station, put the fuel in the jerry can, but it was like a kind of like a bit of a rush job with everything that I had going on. So it might have been bad fuel. It might have been like slightly out of whack air mixture or something. I don't know. But I did practice and the bike felt all right. But I remember thinking like this voice in the back of my head was saying like, make sure like just be extra like focused and present on what you're doing right now. I just had this weird. I just remember thinking like I had a weird feeling in my stomach, and then yeah, in the show like riding, I was at the front of the train, so I had 4 riders behind me, and I remember just going. I was on the takeoff. I was on the run up at the start of the run up, and it was a Supercross event, so there was tough blocks on either side of the run up. And I remember halfway up the run up, something didn't feel right, and I just remember thinking, shit, I'm not going to make this. So I like went full throttle, but I couldn't pull off to the side of the ramp because there was tough blocks. I was kind of locked into the run up, and I had everyone behind me, so I was committed. And I just remember like opening the throttle to full gas and thinking, I hope I make this. And as soon as I left the ramp, I'm like, I'm not making this. I'm fucked.
Oh,
and I'm like, do I jump off? Do I stay on? I don't know. Like, I'm sure you've been in that position where you just like, you've got like maybe 2 seconds to decide what to do. And I was just like, stay on, stay on, stay on. And then bang, hit the ground. And yeah, my wrist dislocated. But at the time, I didn't think it was that bad. I'm like, oh, maybe I broke it. I remember I was really winded. I couldn't breathe. And I was like, anyway, yeah, I was like, oh, I broke my wrist. It should be all right. Like what, I don't know, a month or 2 and I'll be back. But then, yeah, it turns out a year and a half later, I'm still struggling with it. So it's one of those things. But in hindsight, like if I could go back in time and change something, knowing what I know now, I probably would have just put more effort into like getting, I don't know, like what could you do differently? Like I would have probably just bought fuel from like a better gas station, or like probably just, I don't know, thinking back, I can't really remember what the setting was with my jetting, but maybe I should have just put more focus into it. Yeah.
Mate, I've got goosebumps sitting here listening to that story because I kind of knew the story, but I didn't know all that stuff behind it. That's gnarly.
But the thing is too, it's like I could have easily died watching the footage. Like I had 4.
You could have 4 dudes land on top of you.
Yeah. So, and like I only just, like Kai just missed me by a little bit. So I could have easily died. If not died, I could have like become a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, and worse, I could have easily like made one of my close friends seriously injured too. So as bad as it was, I think it was pretty good for the potential of how bad it could have been. So like I can't really like dwell on it too much. It's just one of those things. And I think all the injuries that I've ever had in my career, like looking back at them, I wouldn't be who I am and I wouldn't be the rider that I am now without having gone through them. So yeah, like I don't know, like looking forward, I'm going to have to learn a lot from this. And I don't think I'll ever make such a simple mistake again. Like I think I'll be much more like focused on what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
Think about things a lot more, but it's just one of those things, like I was just like, all right, let's get this show out of the way and go home and have a holiday.
And that's
I've done
the
this
thing,
a million times. It's fucking easy, but it just goes to show like what we're doing is super dangerous, and you got to really think about everything, because every single jump you do could be the jump that kills you. Like as a freestyle rider, you just take it for granted. You're like, I've done this over a million times. Like it's easy, but it's any jump really could honestly be the last. And think about it.
Absolutely. And we've lost friends. Like we've lost our heroes. We've lost friends, and they probably made the smallest mistake.
Yeah, and we've also had friends become wheelchair bound and even like comatose and stuff. So yeah, I think we forget because we're desensitized to it. You got to think like we sell out stadiums full of people because of what we're doing. Essentially, is like a freak show, but to us, it's normal.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
But it's not normal. Like it's so not normal, but it is so normal to us.
think about 15-year-old Pat Bowden before you met Josh and Ash and all that. Like you would have said, that's so crazy. That's so unreal. And what you're doing now is so many more levels above what was even done way back then.
Crazy.
And you're like, yeah, this is normal. It's just a show. Let's just get this thing done and I'm going home.
Yeah, true.
But I guess there's probably a couple of things, because the Yamaha that you ride, like a Yamaha could it's like an old tractor. Like they can just run on diesel and sump oil, and those things still just keep going. Like, you know, I ride a KTM, which is definitely a precision machine where I need to be on top of my jetting and spark plugs and fuel and
Yeah,
everything. Like everything has to be perfect on a KTM. But when I was riding a Yamaha, I never thought about anything, and nothing stopped it. Like it just kept going. But it didn't
yeah,
for you, unfortunately. But then I'm also thinking as well, like in Europe. So for people who have never been to Europe listening to this, there are a lot of small, shitty gas stations. So that wouldn't surprise me that it was dodgy fuel. That's not too far out of the realm of possibilities. Um, but also that you went from that really good setup. Why did you go from the double flip setup back to just standard? Was it just
yeah.
whatever?
So the thing with that was I didn't realize, but so I'd put all this effort in to make the bike. What I was trying to do was make the center of gravity, like the center of mass, closer to the
Mm-hmm.
middle, kind of thing. So I was stripping all these parts off. I had no front fender, no rear fender. Like I had the rear wheel slammed all the way in. Had a complete different gearing setup to allow like the chain to be shorter. Had like a smaller tire. Had a 110 tire in the back. So I'd put all this effort in, and I'd only ever ridden that bike set up on to my airbag doing double flips, but I didn't realize how different it was riding a normal show. So I had to ride
Ah,
when I did the double flip, I had to ride this show, like an hour long show, doing all my normal tricks like cliffhanger flips and ruler flips and whips and everything, with this setup that I'd never done that before, and I realized how like different it was. Like the bike was just handling pretty much like shit, because it was so light. Like when I was doing double grab flips, the bike was just all the weight. Like, so I'm an 80-kilogram rider, and the bike's maybe, I don't know, 70 kilos, but the weight, where the weight used to be like over the back, now it's over the front, and it just was like rotating real weird. So I didn't really like it anyway. Long story short, I didn't like it.
yeah,
So then, yeah, on that show, where the last show that I had to do before I flew home, I was like, I'm just going to put it back to how I like it.
yeah.
But in order to do that, I had to change all the jetting and all the air mixture settings and everything like that. So it was like a little bit of an ordeal, but I was like, it's worth it for the show, to be able to do everything comfortably. That's what I want to do. So I did that, but
Gotcha.
yeah,
That
it
makes
wasn't.
sense.
Yeah. Plus like for the aesthetic of it, I don't think that the bike really looked that good with all the parts missing. I just wanted it to
Yeah.
be normal.
I actually quite liked it. I thought it looked cool. Like, kind of you're going in the direction of, well, I've spoke with Levi about all this, like all the mods that he made to drop weight, but also to move the center of mass and to make double flips easier and blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
whatever it takes to make that happen, as long as I don't know, like when I look back at all the cut guards, like that was so dumb that we did that. But that was just for looks. That wasn't dropping weight. Like
That was sick
drop,
though.
it was sick in a way to
Like for
look back.
me, as a kid looking up at you guys, like, because I was the generation below you guys, and I was like, that was so appealing to me. Something about the cut guards, I don't know, it's just something about it. It just
I
looked
put
cool.
so much time into making sure that rear fender and the front fender were just so matched, and there was no grinder out on mine. Like mine was precision, but
Yeah.
I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? but but I guess that was the time. Like
But it's like
FMX was
anything. Like,
breaking
why
away.
do people wear necklaces, or like why do people do anything? It's all just like, it's like the aesthetic. I think the aesthetic of things is really important. It's like when you see a rider, doesn't matter how good a rider is, if their image and their styles, not their riding style, but just their look is shit, then it doesn't it doesn't resonate as well as someone who's got a really clean bike and a really clean image. So I
Yeah,
think back then,
exactly.
like, that's just what it was. It was like, that was what was cool.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Actually, we'll touch on that a little bit later because I got some questions for you about that. Back to the crash though. So it was dislocated. You dislocated your wrist. That was essentially what it was.
Yeah.
But then it turned into what it turned into. You said you didn't think it was. You never would have thought possible that it could be a career-ending crash. What actually was the injury? Was it simply a dislocation that stopped the blood flow to the lunate bone in your wrist, or did you break something in there as well?
No, it was just purely a dislocation, but it was such a bad dislocation. Like I can look through the footage and go frame by frame, and I can see that my knuckles. So like, picture your hand bending back to the point where it stops, and it's pretty much on my wrist. It's like a normal, it's like a 90-degree angle, but my
Yeah.
knuckles touched my
Oh,
forearm, so
oh,
it did like a full 90-degree bend. So then you can picture the rectangle bone that's in the very center of your wrist. That's called your lunate bone, and that got spat out the front, but with so much force that it tore through the center of my carpal tunnel. And your carpal tunnel's the tunnel where all the nerves and ligaments that control your fingers go through.
yeah.
So it tore a hole through the center of my carpal tunnel, and the lunate bone was sitting like just under the skin. And the surgeon reckons when he's like made the first incision through the skin, the lunate bone was sitting like just under the skin, and he like grabbed it and pulled it out and sat it on the table like there was nothing. It wasn't connected to anything.
Holy
So
shit.
yeah, so then when he put the bone back in and did the ligament reconstruction and everything, for the first 2 months, like I had no feeling in any of my fingers, like it was all just pins and needles, and I couldn't move anything. So I had to put like heaps of time into like trying to get the movement back, and just trying to make a fist, like a ball, like like making a
Yeah.
ball with your fingers. Like that took so long, and that was like such a big achievement. Even just to hold my hand in a throttle position, to wrap my fingers around the throttle was like a big deal. When I finally got my fingers to hold onto the throttle, I was like, yes, I'm back.
Oh,
Yeah, so
man.
it was pretty crazy, like something that you would just never think of. So there was just I think the biggest part of this injury was just all the trauma to all the nerves and like everything like that. Like like, so what it feels like now is, when you're sunburnt and it's just like it hurts to move.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like now on the inside of my wrist. Like when I move it, it kind of just always hurts, and it just doesn't feel real good. But kind of like,
Even
this is
now.
one of it's one of those things. I don't think it'll ever be normal again, but I'm not complaining. It's kind of cool in a way. Like when I'm at the end of my life, I'm gonna look back and be like, yeah, I went hard. Like I don't
Well,
really want to have a really good body when I'm 80. I plan to be like I plan to have just I plan to have just lived that hard that I'm like, I need a rebuild.
mate, you're well on your way. I don't think that's an issue. Like, I think you've achieved that. Getting to 80, you'll be pretty fucking sore. But actually, like, the wrist is something kind of weird, right? Like, what you just said there, and you can't move it, you can't feel it. And I'm thinking to guys like Rob Adelberg was, I think, the first guy that I knew of that had such a destroyed wrist. Do you remember when he couldn't even move it forward and back like 5 degrees? Like his wrist was just locked. And he's
Yeah,
won so many X Games gold medals, it's not funny.
yeah,
And
true.
then David Ronaldo, he won the world championship, and on the last jump, he came back, I think it was from maybe a double grab flip or something like that. And he did that weird thing where you sometimes grab the handlebars upside down. I think that's what it was. And he, with one hand, and he just went full gas straight into the wall and just
Oh,
shattered his wrist. And so they did the world championship trophy ceremony and everything at night of the jumps. And I think I wasn't there, but I think it was his dad had to accept it for him while he was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, getting his
really?
getting his wrist rebuilt and or whatever, like just tried to be fixed. And so his wrist barely moves at all. and
Yeah.
I think he
And
only
his
has
finger
like,
too.
yeah, he's only got control of I think it's the throttle hand as well. Like thumb and one or two fingers are actually in control. And he won X Games best trick with the
Yeah. Yeah.
backflip, Malachi
Cali roll.
flip, Cali
Yeah,
roll
Malachi
thing.
flip.
Like,
That's crazy. That
mate,
just goes to show like
no
I
stress.
feel
You can
like,
join them boys. You'll be sweet.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
this is the next step.
That's the next step in if I want to, yeah, if I want to be the best, I've got to destroy my wrist basically.
You gotta just destroy everything,
Nah,
burn
but
it to
like
the ground, mate, and then come back.
it goes to show like I feel like the fact that we are doing what we're doing in the first place is because we have like a particular type of mentality and belief system, and I don't think that there's really anything that's going to stop like
No,
not me, but like any of us
all of
freestyle
us.
riders, any of us high like top performing freestyle riders. I don't think there's much that's going to stop us because if something was going to stop us, it would have already stopped us in the lead up to where we are because we've just overcome so much to get to where we are. You know, like we're committed. It's like it's really life or death. Think of anyone like Luke Ackerman's a really good example. Like, do you think that anything's going to stop him?
No, like
Like,
that.
there's nothing that's going to stop him.
No, like that's the thing. Well, this is kind of what Rach always talks about. Like, she's like, there was nothing that was going to actually stop me from doing what I'm doing until something really bad happens. And she's like, that's the same for all of you guys. She's like, you're all the same. Like, nobody is
Yeah.
going to retire
Until you
because,
physically can't do it
yeah,
anymore. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. She's like, how many guys have actually retired because they've decided, oh, enough's enough? Like,
Yeah.
maybe a very small handful of guys have done that, and they would be the smartest ones out there. But the rest of us,
Smartest, but also think like, yeah, like the lifestyle that we've got to experience is so unique to us. And I don't think there's any like maybe like a rock star like a musician maybe would have lived a cool life, but at the same time they haven't got to experience the danger and the adrenaline that we have. They've got to experience
yeah,
like the stardom and the parties and stuff, but they haven't really. No one's got to experience what a freestyle motocross rider has, and I think that's why it's so addictive.
I think you're right. Actually, like I'd say any action sport, it's that individuality that goes into it, but everybody's kind of coming either from the same background or they're at least heading to the same goal. But yeah, like a musician, I was thinking about this as well not too long ago. Like musicians they they get all the glory for it and they haven't risked really that much. Maybe they do, I don't know. But um you've got to risk your life every day to go put that show on. They just got to like hopefully turn up and not be that hungover they can get into the limousine to get to the event and try and bang out a 2 hour show without passing out maybe, and then they can go back to the joys of being a rock star.
Yeah, fully. Yeah,
Can't really do that what we're doing. Like, yeah, I don't
yeah,
know. I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right about that. And it's
yeah.
this mentality that just doesn't
And
stop.
that's
And
what unites us too. Like I was like really surprised when I first came to Europe, or even when I first started traveling back at the start of my career. Like my closest friends now are all spread out across the world, and they're all freestyle riders. And it's like it's because we all are like part of this family that have I don't know, this desire to like, for lack of a better term, like I guess just like risk our lives, but it's not risking our lives. It's just like the feeling that you get when you know that you're about to do something so dangerous, and then you live, and then you land, and you're alive on the other end. It's like that feeling that you get is like addictive, but it's like the culture that comes along with it. Like I find like guys from like Alex Pausing from Denmark or Kai from Germany, like it's funny that we all have the same interests in terms of like music or like what we like to do outside of riding as well as riding. And it's like it's not very common that you find people like that outside of our sport. And it's like
yeah,
it's weird. It's like what is it about our personalities that we're drawn to freestyle, and the fact that we're all so similar is like kind of weird to me.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Like, there's not too many that are, let's say, a bit different to our mentality because, yeah, like, I would say, like, for me, I would think I'm a fairly normal, well-adjusted person. I like playing video games a lot. I know you don't.
Yeah,
No, you do. You play a fair bit.
I don't
But
actually anymore, but
no,
I do.
really.
I do
Yeah.
enjoy. I appreciate a video game.
But like, just I'm just a normal guy. But riding that bike is, I don't know, it just seems there's a difference there, and I don't know what it is, and it's cool.
Mm. Something about it, eh? I don't know. It just makes you feel alive.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling pretty good. Well, I'm awake now. I'm awake. I've had my brekkie beer. Thank you.
I got some brekkie beer. Have you had how's it going over there anyway? The brekkie beer.
Well, not too bad. That's my second brekkie beer this week. I did a St.
You should
Patrick's
probably have a
Day.
third.
No, I think I might cancel
Oh,
that.
you may as well.
No, we did St. Patrick's Day, and our friends like, what do they call it in America? A redneck mimosa. So it's orange juice with
Hey,
beer in
Steve.
them. Yo.
Scissors, paper, rock. And if
All
I
right.
win, you have to have another brekkie beer.
All right, and if I win,
Well,
you don't even have any more.
I don't have any more. Nah.
Go find your champagne wherever some of those best whip champagnes are.
I honestly don't have any alcohol in my house. But you want to play scissors, paper, rock real quick?
All right, and
I
will be truthful.
Yeah, you got to be truthful. All right, ready? Scissors, paper, rock. What'd you get?
Rock.
I got rock too.
All right.
It's best
One
of
more.
three. See,
All
one
right.
more? All right.
Yep.
One more. This is sudden death. Scissors, paper, rock. What'd you get?
Rock.
I got rock too. All right, ready? I'm going to get you this one. Ready? Scissors, paper, rock. What'd you get?
Rock.
I got paper.
Bastard. You didn't. You just lied. I know you did.
Yeah, I lied. I got scissors.
I know you held off that split second. I know he just lied then.
Yeah, I got
knew
scissors. You won. You don't have
All
to
right,
do it
next one. Oh, you got scissors. Sweet, I win. All right,
You good.
I'm gonna do it anyway. Hang on.
Nice guy. That's because you kind of have to get the promotion. What's the beer company called again?
Rothaus. Tannenzeppler from the Black Forest region of Germany.
Sounds quite nice, actually.
It is very nice beer, very delicate, nice flavors, and very smooth, especially at 11 in the morning.
Well, that's not that early. Come on, man.
It's early for me. Like, I know a lot of people have probably finished their job for the day by now. I'm just getting started. Oh, thank you very much. Mate, so, well, actually, I want to come back to the aesthetic thing that you were talking about, because let's say, you were talking about 2015 on, you were full gas. When we got to 2017, there was one moment that really stuck out to me, and that was at Nitro World Games. And here comes Pat Bowden, who I'd watched doing a whole bunch of tricks. Like, you were working on tricks for Nitro World Games. I'm like, this is going to be fucking big. And you turned up with an all-white bike. You were all white, and you just had "Send It" written on your fuel tank. There were no sponsors. There were no graphics. There was nothing but "Send It." And I was like, holy shit. Like, this is one of the biggest stages in our sport, and you don't have a single sponsor on there. Was that like a massive fuck you to everyone? Like, you didn't have anything on there.
That's pretty funny. Now you even say that. Like, I never even thought of it like that. Because, like, I'll explain how it'll happen, but it's interesting to hear the outside perspective on that.
Okay, so I was wrong.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh,
yeah, it wasn't really a fuck you statement or anything like that. To be completely honest with you, the way that it happened was what was it? So this is from my limited memory after hitting my head so many times. But so Canvas MX, which is my longtime gear sponsor, they hit me up and they're like, "Hey, we love you, love what you're doing. We want to like look after you with some gear, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Yeah, dope." So I was working with them for a bit, and then I was like, "Hey, I've got this event coming up. Can you send me some gear?" And they're like, "Yeah, we'll send you some gear." The only problem is we're like still trying to at the current time we're sorting out like a new manufacturer, and we've only got blank white gear. And I was like, "Oh, just send whatever you've got. I don't really even care. Just send whatever." So I got this white gear in the mail, and then I'm like, "Well, I can't just wear white gear. I kind of needed to make it match the bike." So I just got a white plastics kit. And then I'm like, this is kind of cool. So then I just hit up this local graphics company in Temecula, and I was like, I designed, because I'm a graphic designer, I just whipped together this real quick kit, and I'm like, fuck it. I won't put any logos on there. I'll just send it on there. Because it's kind of relatable to the event that I'm about to do. And then yeah, like I did the event, and I saw the footage. I'm like, that's pretty cool actually. I'm gonna try this in Europe, because I remember like my whole thing was I was always black and like dark colors. But I remember
Yeah.
like getting the footage and the photos back from the events I would do in Europe, which are always like in indoor stadiums, and I could never really see myself I'd get lost in the background and stuff. So I'm going to try this in Europe. And then I did it over there, and I was like, the photos came out super crisp. I'm like, this is sick. I'm going to do this. This is going to be my thing. So I just ran it ever since. And yeah, it was kind of like my thing, I guess. But it kind of was it was honestly just an accident the way that it come about. I didn't really set out to do it. But in hindsight, I'm glad that it happened, because it definitely helped me just kind of build my own image and separate myself from everyone else.
Man, that sucks. I'm wrong. I'm normally pretty fucking right. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, because up until then, yeah, you were wearing all different gear. You got the sponsor logos, and then you go into the biggest
Yeah.
event. So I was looking at it from a manager's point of view at the time, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, he has
Well,
just
yeah,
gone,
actually,
fuck you all, because I'm going to
in
do
a
this
way,
event and there's so much TV and nobody's helping. And I was like, yep, good one, Pat. That was nice. And you just told me it was a complete accident.
well, actually, now you mention it, I do remember vaguely thinking, yeah, no, I do remember thinking like I had a few sponsors at the time, which I still do have a few sponsors, but I remember thinking, for what I'm doing and the amount of work that I'm putting in preparation to get here and doing these events, the payoff isn't worth it. And I'm like, I'm gonna run like that particular year. I didn't really run any logos, but now I still have an all white setup. But if you look closely, I still have logos on my bike and on my rear fender and stuff. But it's like for the effort that I'm putting in traveling,
Yeah.
it's 40 hours one way from Australia to Europe, and I do that like I don't even know how many times a year one way. So imagine both ways. It's like hundreds of hours on a plane, let alone the practice and the preparation, and then doing the events. I'm like, if someone wants to be promoted on my bike, like it's got to really be worth it for me, and I'm not gonna run logos for free. And it's like, unless you want to pay me what I want, I'm not gonna really put a massive logo on my bike. So, and I'm happy with the amount of effort that I'm putting in. Like I'm earning my own money off my own efforts, and I'm happy just to do my own thing. Like I don't need to just like everyone else is running energy drink logos and stuff. Like I don't really need to do that. I don't need. I don't know, man. Like I'm an individual, and I just do my own thing, and like I'm easy going. Like I'm not like trying to make a statement or anything like that. If someone wants to sponsor me, I'll happily run a logo, but I also want to be like, um, I want to make it worthwhile, So up until when it's worthwhile, I'm happy doing my thing.
Back yourself, mate, all the way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, just promote what you're doing.
Like
I'll just
honestly,
be,
the last 5 years, the money that I make is directly in proportion to the effort that I put in with the events and the shows that I do. And that's why I'm so busy, because I work. I honestly believe that I outwork every single person in the industry. And I'm not saying that I'm not being arrogant or like anything like that, but I honestly believe that there's no one that I honestly believe that I was the most in demand rider in 2019, 2018, but but that's what I had to do to make money to have the lifestyle that I want, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't really talk myself up. I honestly just let my riding do the talking, and it seems to have worked for me. So yeah, that's what I do. I just do my best, and that's gotten to me to where I am. But for some reason, I don't have any sponsors, so it is what
Well,
it
this
is. I don't
is,
know.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, I remember watching a Metallica documentary 20 years ago, probably longer, probably 25. And the one thing that really stood out to me, even way back then when I didn't even know what a work ethic was, I was avoiding milking cows on the farm. So I had no work ethic. But I listened to James Hetfield saying the reason Metallica are where we are right now is we are touring more than anyone. We will do every show. We will be there. We'll do 365 days of shows if we have to. Like,
That's sick.
and yeah, and he was like, we did that for 10 years or 15 years to that point when they were absolutely massive. So I guess the
Yeah,
documentary was kind of just after the Black Album. So that was when they broke into the mainstream. Up
yeah,
until then,
really.
you know, it was all thrash metal that was definitely wasn't mainstream until Enter Sandman came out.
Yep,
And
yep.
yeah, he's like, the reason we got to this point was we just fucking toured, and no one toured more than we did, and that's why it's working out. So
That's
it's
sick.
cool to
Yeah,
hear that. It's cool to hear
yeah,
your story. The same mentality, like you're just touring, you're just getting on the plane. I guess the hard part is you're based in Australia, so you can't
yeah,
just do a 2 hour drive and get to a show. Like you got to do a 40-hour flight plus,
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I
or
remember. So
getting
this is
ready.
what I remember, Steve. I wanted nothing more in the world. Like you can't even explain it with words how bad I wanted to ride Night of the Jumps. And so this is throwback to maybe 2012, 13, 14. I was sitting at home watching, I would watch every single Night of the Jumps recap video. I'm like just daydreaming. I need to be there. That's all I want in my whole life. So I like put in the work, and like it just never seemed to happen. I would always get so close, and I would always have like an opening to ride Nitro Circus or like Night of the Jumps or something. I'd get so close, and then I'd be disappointed, and I just never seemed to be able to get there. And then I was like, all right, what have I got to do to get there? Like it just seemed like there was a barrier, and I was just never going to make it. And I'm like, if I really want to make this happen, I've just got to put my head down and like get just. It's like if I get to a certain level, they can't say no. So I remember going out and I learned double grab flips and rock solid flips and ruler flips, and I learned these tricks. And then that's when I got a manager that was based in Europe and finally got the door opened. And then when I finally did get into the European scene and the international touring scene, I was like, I'm not going to turn anything down because I've just worked so hard to get here, and I wanted this so bad that like as if I'm going to say no. I didn't take anything for granted, you know. And I didn't even realize when I first started traveling to Europe that I was like a cheap rider. I was just like saying yes to anything. And I think a lot of riders were probably looking at me like I was a dickhead undercutting everyone, but I didn't know what the rates were. I didn't know anything. I'm like, I just want my door. Like I just want this open door, and I've got it, and I'm gonna roll with it. And then like fast forward a few years, I was like looking back at my invoices from like 2015. I'm like, oh shit, I was a little bit cheap back then, but it's what I had to do, you know. It's what I had to do to get the opportunities, and yeah, like
Well,
it is what it is.
there's a few things there because I have lived the experience, not going fucking crazy like you do. I don't do tricks like you do, but the living here and the shows, I definitely know, and I know the back end of all that conversation. Um, and I agree and I disagree, but I'll turn around and I'll agree again. So when I came over here, I only came for 2 months, and the plan was to do 5 events of judging in 2014. So Zurin, the guy who got you in that first time to ride, good
Yeah.
old Zurin, I lived with him. Went from 2 months to 11 months, so I feel a bit sorry about that. But he was a good guy, and he put me up in the middle of Berlin, and it was awesome. But then events popped up, and the reason I lived here was because shows became available that I never planned to ride a show. I came to judge at the World Championships, and that was it. I did bring some gear because I was going to ride with Hannes at his place, and that was it. And then a couple of shows came along, and I had no idea about the price, the same as you. I was like, I don't know what anyone gets paid, and nobody says how much they get paid. And it's like this massive secret. And so, as we all know, in Australia, you get paid next to stuff all.
Yeah.
And so when I got here, I didn't go in cheap. And because I didn't do that many shows in Australia, more because of safety standards, because most shows in Australia didn't even have an airbag on the front of a big steel truck. So
Yeah.
I was not riding shows without an airbag, simple as that. And so that cut me out of a lot of shows straight away. And I didn't care, and I wasn't interested. I was quite happy going to university and, doing invert management.
Yeah.
So when I got here, I just would say to the promoter or to the riders that were asking me to do a show, I'm like, how much is a fair price in your country? Because every country over here in Europe is also different. Like England's garbage England's almost as bad, if not worse, than Australia for a freestyle show price. So I was like, well, if that's normal for you guys and it's not going to get any better, well, I guess we're going to have to pull our pants down here and get what we get. Like you're only worth as much as somebody's going to pay. But then in Germany, it was better, and France is awesome. Russia was like maybe one of my best paydays. And so I just went with the idea of whatever is fair for you guys. And that way, hopefully I'm not upsetting anybody. And then I do remember in 2015, I think it was 15 or 16, I'm not going to say this promoter's name, but he was putting it out there that the Aussies are coming over cheap. And so then I was getting some shit from riders. I'm like, well, I know it's not me. But it didn't worry me. I didn't care because I knew what I was doing. But I had a pretty good guess. I'm like, well, Pat doesn't actually know the scene here. Like, he's just come over with a whole bag of fucking tricks and he's riding his dirt bike. Like, and so I look back and I think to myself, yeah, I did the right thing by not going cheap. I didn't go expensive. I just said, what is fair? Maybe they screwed me on price. I don't know. And then I think if I had done every show that I was offered, what position would I be in? Like, would that have completely changed my trajectory? Like, would I have done so much more? And then that brings me back to the thought of Metallica saying they just toured nonstop and they didn't give a shit if it was the smallest show in the world or the biggest show in the world. And they did it. And then I'm like, man, you can easily see the benefits. Of course, there's disadvantages and there's advantages to every decision. And I'm like, obviously you can't change the past, but I'm like, did I make the right decision or not? For me, yeah, I made the right decision. And I think for you also, yeah, you might have done some cheap ones, but you also, as you said, like coming from Australia, and this is something I don't think really Americans would understand and the Euros wouldn't understand, but as an Aussie, as a Kiwi, as a Safa, as a Brazilian or a Chilean, anybody that's not based in Europe or America, the work you have to do to be noticed, to be invited, to go to that event in their countries is like, you think you have to be the best. Like, you think you have to win X Games to even get invited to a show. And then to get to that show, it's going to cost them $2,000 or something like that in airfares and excess baggage just to get you there. The other guys don't have to do that. So there is another price tag on having an international rider. Who pays for that? Unfortunately, it comes out of your back pocket because you can't go in saying, I want all the money in the world. But it just cost me a fortune to even get you in the country. Like, so yeah,
I remember
this
in the
big economy.
And I had so the other thing too was like, I signed with a manager and I didn't really know anything. I didn't know what the rates were in Europe, but I knew what the rates were in Australia, and I knew that what I was earning in Europe was more than I was earning in Australia. So, and you got to think too, I was young. I was like 21, 2021 when I first came to Europe. And when I think back to where I was, like where I was in life back then to where I am now, I was like a kid. So to have any opportunity, I was like, yeah, I'm going to take this thing with both hands. Um, I made it. I made the best of it. That's for sure. Like, I don't think if I could go back in time, I don't think I would have changed anything. It's just what you have to do. Like, I wasn't really in a position to ask for any more money, and I had to really prove myself, and it took a few years, and it eventually it really did pay off. But it's just it's one of those things. For where I lived, I was literally from Europe. You couldn't really get any further away from Europe to
No.
where I lived. So to get that opportunity and that call up to come and ride one of the biggest events in the world, it's like I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to get there. I'll pay for my own flights if I have to, and then once I get there, then I'm gonna show these people what I'm worth, and that's what I did. So I wouldn't change anything.
Perfect response. Exactly. That's the thing. Like you can't change it, and everything's kind of led to now. So it is what it is, and you got to learn these lessons. So you've learned them. That's for sure. But like, let's say come kind of back to 2017 at Nitro World Games, and then on, like you're doing massive tricks, front flip rulers at Nitro World Games, double backies. I'd say that was a crash. I don't know if that was supposed to be a double backy onto the airbag at Nitro World Games.
Yeah, no.
The bike certainly did 2 backflips. You didn't. What else? Ruler flips, double heart flips. All these things that were just so massive. Like you were doing a lot of the fronties off that moon Buddha front flip bloody thing.
Yeah.
Then you ended up, well, actually, I think in 2017 as well, I saw you were trying the TP roll at Travis's house, riding on his RM250. Like you're riding Travis's bike. How the hell did that feel? Like, what was that RM like? Was it a heavy old Suzuki, or has he actually made it reasonably good to ride?
No, that bike was clapped out as hell.
Okay, nice.
For me, I was like, I don't know. I'll honestly ride any bike. I don't care. Bike's a bike. If it's got a motor and 2 wheels, then I'll probably make it work. And the fact, like, I've had my fair share of pretty big accidents on bikes that are too sketchy to ride to like a 75-foot hard landing. Like I've had throttle cable snap and crazy shit happen. But to an airbag, I'm like, what's the worst that could really happen? So I don't have any other bike. I'm just going to ride this thing, and made it work. Travis always seems to have I don't know, for how sketchy some of those bikes are. I'm like, he seems to know what he's doing. Like I don't think that he would ride something that was going to kill him or someone that he cares about. So I was like, I'm just going to ride this thing. But yeah, I was trying the TP7, and it was like, it's one of those tricks where it's like easy to do 95% of the trick, but the last 5% of the trick is the hardest part to like actually dial in. So I think that's why he went and did the double flip 360, because if you hear him talk about it, he's like, that extra rotation of the backflip is what helps him get that extra like 5 degrees of rotation on the 360.
That's funny.
Yeah.
You got to do another backflip to get 5% extra on the 360 rotation. Like,
yeah,
that's ridiculous. And actually, short detour here, you landed that actually on a mountain bike, I remember.
Yeah, I did. I actually posted that video on my story tonight. I was watching it back.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was like that was a funny experience. I didn't even plan to do that. Do you want to hear the story? It's pretty funny.
Yeah, go for it. That's what we're here for.
So I was in Germany. It was one of these trips where I had heaps of time up my sleeve, and I'm like, what was it? I was like, so a friend of mine, Sven, he's like got the connection with the bike shop, and he's like, oh, you should ride in the show. I'm like, that's what it was. In practice one weekend, I had to go on one of the other mountain bike riders' bikes and just jump the mega ramp. And then my friend Sven was like, oh, I could probably get you a bike if you want one. And I'm like, yeah, righto. So then in the meantime, while he was trying to line up a bike for me, I was riding these other mountain bike riders' bikes in the practice of the events, and I ended up doing double backy and some other tricks. I'm like, this is pretty fun. And then I tried a double backflip 360. I tried a few of them and crashed it a few times on other riders' bikes. And then I got my own mountain bike. And then I came back to the show, and I was trying in practice, and I was getting pretty close. I'm like, I reckon I could probably land this. And then just randomly, spontaneously, like this one event, they have like a best trick segment in each show. And I was like, I'm going to enter this. So I was like in my motocross gear. I took my boots off, took my helmet off, and like jumped on my mountain bike and went in the show. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking land this thing, and then sent it and actually landed it. And I was like completely shocked because I'd never really tried one into a foam pit or anything before. I was just like pumped off everyone's energy, and I'm like, I'm gonna try it anyway, and it worked. So I was like, it got me thinking, and I'm like, maybe this thing. Like, don't get me wrong, this trick's super hard and like super technical, but I feel like the fact that I landed it with the amount of practice that I did, I'm like, maybe this thing could be possible on moto. So yeah, it's definitely yeah, it's definitely something I'm thinking about. But it's like in reality of the difference between a bicycle and a motorcycle is like 10 times harder and 10 times more risk. So it's just like, I've just got to weigh up, is this something that I really want to put my time and energy into? And am I willing to risk, like, especially after this wrist injury, I'm like hyper aware of my health, and without your health, you haven't got anything. I'm like, is the payoff for what I'm going to get from this worth what I'm going to invest into it? So that's kind of what I'm like thinking about at the moment. I'm like, I reckon if anyone could do this trick, I definitely have a high shot of being able to pull it off, but it's just like, am I willing to do it? And that's kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment.
Oh.
But yeah.
Would Pat Bowden 2015, would Pat Bowden back then go, fuck it, I am doing it?
2015.
Trying to break into the world scene. I need to get a trick. I'm going to go for it. Double backy 360.
I honestly don't think that I would have had the skill back then to do it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think so. Nah. Like, because I remember back then how hard a double flip was. Like, I practiced that double grab flip so many times before I could do it on lock. And now I could do a double grab flip first jump. But yeah, it's like back then I just don't think that I was technically able to do that or like consciously able to understand the physics of it. But now I feel like I'm definitely in my prime right now, and I don't know, but I'm in my prime, but I'm also like a much smarter person in terms of the risk that I take, and I don't take uncalculated or educated risks anymore. Like I only really do things if I'm completely like certain that there's like a pretty good chance I'm going to land it. Whereas when I was younger, I would just do things just for the like small chance that I might land it, and that's majority of the time why I ended up injured, because I said I said fuck it, but I don't say fuck it anymore. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's a hard question to answer.
Yeah. I mean, rock solid backflips. You've got those down. Double grabs, like you said. Have you done one first jump before? Have you tried it?
Yeah.
You have?
I remember that. Yeah. So the year that I did the Cali roll in Berlin, I remember the double grab flip used to always be my double up trick in Night of the Jumps. And the year that I did the Cali roll, I was like, all right, well, the Cali roll is my double up trick. So I was like, I want to get the double grab flip out of the way as soon as possible. So I wrote that on my trick list first. So yeah, like double grab flips, I can do them first jump.
Bloody hell. That's so gnarly.
Yeah.
I'd need a fair bit of warm-ups to be thinking about that sort of stuff. But actually then, yeah, you've only done one body varial, is that right? You did that one at Night of the Jumps. You landed it, but still dislocated your shoulder.
Yeah, and then I just kind of, I don't know, I just remember the stress. I probably did that trick prematurely, to be honest with you, because I remember I flew to Spain the week before Night of the Jumps, and my friend Ash sorry, he flew himself, but Ash from Aussie Adrenaline, he flew over to Spain to film like this video that of behind the scenes learning the Cali roll, and I only had like 5 or 6 days to learn it into the foam pit. And then we went to Berlin, and then I did it to dirt. So I had like literally 5 days learning a Cali roll, and then I went to Night of the Jumps, and I'm like, I just put so much pressure on myself to do this thing to dirt. So I did it, but I probably wasn't ready. And then I landed it, but yeah, I dislocated my shoulder really badly and had to go to hospital and put to sleep to put it back in place. And just I was like pretty mentally scarred after that. And I was like, I'm just gonna stick. I never really even made a decision about it. I was just like, I just kind of never really did it again. I never really had the opportunity to do it because I didn't have my own foam pit. I never had the opportunity to go back to a foam pit to try it, and it just kind of never happened. But yeah, I don't know. I'm the type of guy, I'm the type of rider who wants to do all the biggest tricks. But the Cali roll, for some reason, is just something I never did again. I don't know.
Mate, you'll have to give it another shot. You've got the airbag now. So
yeah, but the airbags are kind of like, there's positives and negatives to airbags and foam pits, and I feel like airbags aren't that good for body varials.
Right.
Because so like picture a body varial, right? If you do a Cali roll or a vault and you miss the bike and you're floating through the air, there's a good chance the bike's going to land on the bag before you do. Yep. So the bike's taking up the impact of, like, the bike's taking up the soft airbag, and then by the time you hit it, the bag's on its way up towards you, and it's like compressed by the bike, so the impact's actually like getting smacked in the face by Mike Tyson. And it's not really, yeah, it's not really that. It's actually quite hard. You can get knocked out really easily, and if you land on the bike on the airbag, you're going to get a handlebar to the stomach, or you're going to break a leg or something. But where if you land on the bike in the foam pit, there's like a barrier between you and the bike of cubes of foam type thing. Or if the bike lands on you in the foam pit, there's a barrier between you and the bike. But on the airbag, it's just you and the bike on a platform, basically. So yeah, for body variants, I've never really been comfortable to try one to a bag, but for double flips and all that other crazy stuff, airbags are definitely good. But it's just kind of like, I don't know, there's positives and negatives to both of them, and certain tricks that are better on one than the other.
That's really interesting to hear, because I remember one time trying, like back in 2006, I think it was, and I just went for a backflip and I pulled the bloody clutch on as I pulled on the ramp out at Shoey's. So, of course, I didn't get any rotation because I've just clutched the last bit when you need a bit of gas. And I landed completely upside down in his foam pit. And I've got a perfect hexagonal hole in the top of my helmet where the hex bolt from the handlebar mount went through my helmet like that.
No way.
Fucking hurt. Yeah, that hurt. And it was a perfect hole in my helmet. So, yeah, I was like, I don't know, maybe airbags and foam pits aren't that much different, because that hurt.
Yeah.
I wasn't knocked out, but I definitely rung my bell that day.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, like I've had like so here's a good example. I've had over in Czech Republic at the Podmole's place, I was practicing double flips, and I did this one where I didn't have any grip tape on my frame, and I did the first rotation and my feet slipped off the bike, and I went into like a ruler flip. And then so I've done the first rotation, the bike slipped between my feet, and then I've got the bike above me going into the second rotation. I've let go of the bike, and I've landed in the foam thinking the bike's going to hit me, which it was aiming straight for me. But I was like, I had like a few meters of separation. And then, so like I went into the pit, and then I got covered by foam, and then the bike's coming after me. But then I've done this exact same thing to my airbag where I've lost the bike, and I've created a few meters of separation, and then the bike's landed on top of me, and I've almost broken. Like, I remember one day I almost broke both my femurs because the bike, like the handlebars landed on my legs. And I was, for the first like couple of minutes, I was like, my leg's broken for sure. Because obviously there's nothing. It's like I just land on the airbag, then the bike just lands on me.
Just smack.
Yeah. So it's like, that's bad, but at the same time, you can't burn to death on an airbag, but we've obviously had a few guys burn to death in a foam pit because it's so flammable. So
yeah,
it's just one of those things. You got to weigh it up, and I don't know. Airbags just seem more convenient. You can relocate them. You can sell them when you're done. like, it's, I don't know, one of them things. You can't really sell a
That's it.
foam pit without like putting 100 hours of labor into moving it.
Yeah. I was actually just about to say that. The day that I did put that hex hole in my helmet, I was under the bike and it was dripping petrol all over me. So
Oh, are you serious?
I was shitting my pants. I was like, oh, that was the worst feeling. And just Shuey jumping in to get me out. I think Muzzer was on the crane and I was packing it. Like, yeah.
Far out, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. But I guess like a lot of people have had the petrol drip in a foam pit and it's not fun. And they do go up, unfortunately. And it has
Yeah.
taken some lives. I think at least one that I know of, maybe two. But
Yeah.
yeah, fuck, man. Right, let's get off of that. Let's get off
Yeah.
of that
Yeah.
stuff. So you've done that. You did best trick at Dirt Diggers, front flip, indie, tsunami indie thing. Was that the first time you did it there as well?
The first time I did that trick.
Yeah, at Dirt Diggers.
Yeah. So I did the tsunami front flip at World Games, but yeah,
Ah, yeah. Sorry, you did. You did
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember. So what happened was World Games. We had big airbag there, and they had the airbag. They put it on the landing, and what was it? Yeah, I'd only ever done a no hand front flip before at um Ausex Open off a normal like 75-foot front flip ramp. The only other front flip I'd done was off the World Games ramp where I did the ruler front flip.
Yeah.
So going into that, I was like, oh, I was a bit scared. I didn't know how this ramp was going to kick me, but I was like, to an airbag landing, I was like, there's a good chance that even if something goes wrong, I'm not going to die. So I just took the opportunity, and I'm like, I'm gonna try it. So I landed a fronty. I did a few more fronties. Then I was like, did some no hand fronties, and I'm like, I reckon I could like probably do some like Superman fronties or something. So I put my flip levers up and started getting comfy with that, and then yeah, next thing I know, I was doing indie fronties and Superman fronties, and then they took the airbag away, and then come the event, I was like, I think that was the best trick comp. So I'm like, I made it. Like I can't really not try one if I've already done them to the airbag. So I just had to change the rotation a little bit, and yeah, ended up doing it. But I don't know. That's kind of how I just kind of get myself into these situations by like the way that like me and my friends like grew up. We were just so competitive, and we kind of like train. I don't know. I've kind of trained myself from a young age to be like really hard on myself. Like if I'm scared of doing something, I force myself to do it anyway. So that's kind of how I've done most of the things that I've done in my career. Just by like bullying myself into overcoming the fear and telling myself that I can do it. And that's what I did that day, and it worked. So I've kind of had to balance my level of like bullying myself with my level of being able to comprehend what I need to do to be able to do what I want to do safely. And that's like a pretty good mix of the key attributes to be able to like perform at a high level. So yeah, it was pretty scary day, but looking back at it, pretty good day at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Looking back, like we're talking about massive tricks here. Uh, what was the hardest of all of your big tricks to learn, and what's the most fun of all of those big tricks to learn?
Just in general.
Yeah, just in general.
Hardest trick. Um, oh, definitely the double flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, double flip's definitely the hardest trick I've ever learned. Um, all the other tricks, like, kind of easy. Like the tsunami front flip was kind of easy, and yeah, like I don't know, kind of just I just could. I remember I could understand the physics of it, and I remember telling Travis like when I flew, because like what happened was he emailed me. I don't even know how he knew who I was, but I had an email from Travis, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to come to Nitro World Games?" This is back in 2015 or 16, the first year that it was on. And I'm like, "Yep, I'm gonna come." And then I just had to think of a trick, and I'm like, "I reckon I could probably do a front flip ruler." And I remember flying to his house, and I was telling him I want to try a front flip ruler, and he was telling me that it wasn't possible. He's like,
Huh.
I don't know, man. He's like, I've tried them before, and you can't really get much extension more than a Superman. And I just remember thinking at the time, like, but I reckon you can, because it makes sense in my head. And then in the first day, I was doing rule of front flips, and then I just kept doing them for like the next 10 days, and then went and did it at the competition. So that gave me confidence in my like beliefs of my own ability. And then yeah, like, but the double flip definitely was like the hardest, most technical, most scary, dangerous trick I've ever had to do. Like, and it was like one thing doing it to the airbag, and then when I had to go and do it to, oh, but sorry, the double flip's easy off like big ramps like the moon booter. I remember I did my first double flip at Travis's house to like a big steep mulch landing for like they were filming for like the new action figures movie, and it was easy. I did it with no shirt on just because it was like I was confident in how easy it was. But then doing it off of like a standard super kicker at an event to a hard portable landing is like a whole nother game. And the time that I had to do it, yeah, like end of 2019 to a portable landing, I was just like, it was just like I had to just let go of all my fear and all my doubt, and I'm just like I've put too much work in now to not do it. But I was like I could easily die right now, and I just had to let go of everything and roll. It was kind of like a roll of the dice, but at the same time, I knew that I'd put in as much work that I physically could have in the lead up to it. So I'm like, it should work, but I'm still scared as hell, and I did it and it worked. But then the following weekend, obviously that wrist injury happened, so I haven't done one since. So I'm gonna have to go completely back to the drawing board when I do my next one. So it's like pretty stressful. But
Holy crap.
but yeah, to answer
Um,
your question, I honestly think the double flip's the hardest. But like in saying that, there might be some people listening, I don't know, riders listening to this who have done them, and they're probably like, oh, they're easy. But I think on a two stroke 250, they're hard because I think the bikes are a little bit underpowered for the trick. On a 450, I think they probably might be a bit easier just because you've got the power there and the torque off the ramp for the rotation. Like the weight of the bike on a 450 is heavier, but the power is more than a two stroke. That's why we have to take like a lot of the weight off the bike to get the rotation on a two stroke. But I'd be interested in trying one on a four stroke. I think that might be the answer. I don't know. Unless you want to go full Levi spec and like start manufacturing custom parts, then yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe the electric bike's the answer actually. But then you don't have to drive the engine, so I'm not really sure.
mate, I'm just sitting here listening. Don't think me going quiet's that I'm
Yeah,
bored.
like
I'm just like,
so like
that's cool. Let's see
imagine
what he
like
go. Where is he gonna go? Where's Pat's mind going right now?
because like those older motorbikes, even though they're discontinued, they don't make them anymore. But I've heard that those things have like way more torque than any motocross bike on the bottom end. So if you could get that electric motor smaller and more central to the center of mass, then that thing should rotate quicker, but you're going to have one more power. So it's like, that's the answer solved right there. But then it's like, if you're going to be doing like indoor arena stadium shows, then there's no sound. And that's like, that's kind of embarrassing in a way because there's no sound of the bike, so it's dead quiet. You could be doing a triple backy, but if there's no sound and like no smell of the fumes of the motor, it's like kind of a little bit like anticlimactic in my opinion. I don't know.
I'm with you. I'm with you on it for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like it. Well, unfortunately, that is half of it, and that kind of goes all the way back to what you said about aesthetics, right
Yeah,
back at the
yeah,
start. Like someone could be doing the gnarliest thing, and you kind of get turned off if they everything looks like crap. And I don't want to say that that's true, but it kind of is. And
yeah,
I don't want to say doing gnarly tricks on an electric bike doesn't look as good or sound as good. It's because it definitely doesn't sound as good. You don't have that feeling of just trying to get
yeah,
this thing around, and seeing a
yeah,
big plume of smoke coming out as you're just trying to get the thing going, or if you're on a four banger, see a bloody little fire pops coming out the exhaust,
yeah,
trying to get on it. But then in saying that, watching Levi doing a double backflip, he barely even gives the bike any
That's true.
blips through the air. So,
And also,
yeah,
it's like people still sell out stadiums with the BMX, or maybe not sell out stadiums, but like part of
yeah,
X Games
exactly.
is like mega ramp and skateboard and scooter and
There's no sound there.
rollerblades, and there's no sound. So it's like maybe maybe it is the future. Maybe we're just stuck in the Stone Age, and we're like old school, and we don't really know what the future holds. It's like old people probably think iPhones and like Instagram were never going to be like cool, but turns out they are. So maybe we're just, I don't know, maybe we're just like stuck in our ways. But the
Mate,
next generation
Instagram's
will be like, "Hey Gramps, what do you think about this electric bike?" And we're going to be like, "Hey, electric bikes." Back in my day, we had two strokes. Back in my day, our bikes used to bug on the ramps.
Yeah, that's how I got my wrist. Old creaky here. Oh, I just need to
Yeah.
put a grease nipple in her just to keep it
We
going.
we used to have to mix our fuel to 40-1.
40-1. That's why your bike bogged.
What do you
Bloody
mean?
hell. Oh
250 mil to
no.
250 mil, 10 liters. That's perfect.
Yeah, Yamahas. I forgot. Yamahas. I'm running 60-1 in the KTM, so that's why I'm
What?
like, yeah, that's what it says in the book.
See, that's
That's
weird.
from
That's weird, man.
That's what's in the book. That's why she's a precision machine, mate. You got to be on top of your
Yeah.
KTMs. You can't be running
See,
sump oil like the old Yamaha. And mate,
Ezo.
if I did 40-1 with that thick old motor oil or whatever you'll probably run, I don't know what you're running, but man, my KTM would be so fouled up it just wouldn't even
Yeah.
start. I'd be back to where I was in 2010, mate. cursing the day that I changed from Yamaha to KTM when I was going through like 6 spark plugs before I could even ride. Like that was
Wait,
that was
everyone does
crap.
it though, eh? Everyone who goes from any bike to a KTM two-stroke has that first like year of bogging
Oh,
every single plug that they put in it.
I was so over it. I'm like, why did I do this? But then once I got it, I'm like, yeah, now I know. Like that's sweet. But you got to be on it. So the double backflip, that's the hardest. The crazy thing that you said was the ruler front flip was only 10 days practice. That blew me away.
Sorry, just to stop real quick. Don't get me wrong. I know
Yo,
I said it was easy, but it was
I'm sure it was
scary. It
stressful.
was scary as hell. It was like, yeah, it was
Yeah.
like scary as hell, but I landed it, so it's easy for me to say now that it was easy, but it was actually quite hard. But yeah, anyway, continue.
Yeah. No, well, I guess there's a couple of things there actually, because like one of the biggest pieces of footage that came out of that event was you doing the front flip ruler. And until 10 days before that event was booked in well advanced. Like you made one of the best tricks and you only started it 10 days earlier. Like if you didn't do it, what was going to be going through for the content after that event? I don't know. But that's kind of cool that you just banged it out. All right, there it is. Ruler front flip. You've done the double backy. What is the most fun of those big tricks to do?
Well, the most fun trick that I did in any of those years was definitely like the double heart look through
Oh
backy that I
yeah.
did, or like I think I did a one hand indie to rock solid double heart, and then I did a double look through. That was pretty sick because I was like third gear pinned off that moon Buddha, like as fast as I could go without like G'ing out real hard, and then just hanging off it. That was pretty sick. That was pretty scary, but it was like, yeah, because like, yeah, and that's like it's like the closest you can get to living in a video game, I think. Not so much riding to the event, but even practicing in the lead up to that event, I was like, I honestly felt like I'm in a video game right now. I could hit this ramp as fast as I can possibly go, and then just do whatever trick I want and just hold it for as long as I want, and then land in a pillow of air and just not even get hurt. I was like, this is honestly like a virtual reality world where there's like no consequences, but there really was. Like because that year was the year that there's that footage where I like lost the bike and did a double flip and landed on my head on the bike. So yeah, definitely dangerous. But
What happened in that? Like, did it actually knock you around?
yeah, so just from crashing on the airbag, I cracked like a bit of my airbox on my plastics, and I went up the ramp and I had my flip levers up, and I was about to just jump off for a rule flip, and just I wanted to hold the rule flip for as long as I could. But when I went to jump off the bike, my pants got caught on the cracked bit of plastic, and so I'd pulled for a rule flip, but I stayed on the bike, so the bike was spinning way quicker, and I couldn't. There was nothing I could do to slow the rotation down. So I got to the peak, like the apex of the jump, and I was like, I'd already done a full rotation, but I wasn't spinning quick enough to do a double, but I was spinning too quick to obviously land. So I was like, I've no option but to just bail. But I had too much G-force to bail and not do another flip, so I had to tuck into another flip, and it was just like I only had like a split second to really think about what I was doing. So I was like, I just tucked into the other flip and then landed onto the bike. And at the time, I thought I broke my femur. And going home that night, I had this Airbnb booked around the corner. I had a bathtub, and my girlfriend Alyssa, she like went to the corner store and bought like 10 bags of ice, and I was just ice bathing all night. It was so painful, and that was really grinding. Like that was like hard work. So to come out on the podium, I don't think I won that year. I think I got second maybe. But it was like I'd worked so hard for that for that payoff. I was like, I don't think you'd work any harder. But I'd put so much into the lead up. I'm like, I don't know, this is what I do. I just work.
Well, it seemed to pay off because I guess it was a year or two later you won.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the next year I won, and then the next year after that I won.
So,
but I didn't win for a while. I think I got third, then I got second, then I got first, then I got first.
And how did that feel? Like at an event that big with tricks that gnarly, what was it like?
Honestly, man, I was kind of just like, meh.
Really?
Yeah, like I don't know, man. Like I was like, I'm so competitive, and in the lead up to it, I'm like, eye on the prize. Like I'm gonna win this. I'm gonna win. And then if I don't win, I'm like really upset and like disappointed. But when I do win, I'm kind of just like, I don't know. It's kind of like I'm like it's a massive relief. But as a human, I just think that we can't really comprehend it. Like I found that like I couldn't comprehend it, and after it, I'm like, it was easier to just think like meh and like move on to the next accomplishment than really like dwell on what I'd done. Like I honestly I really couldn't comprehend what I'd done, and it was, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like what am I gonna do? Just dwell on it and be like, I'm so cool, I won the first place trophy. I was more so just like, I'm pretty stoked on what I did, and I got the outcome that I desired, and then that's what I expected, and now it's time to just go on to the next thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not
Yeah,
going to
it's
win
really
anymore
weird.
if you sit there thinking about the one. Like you got to move on to the next thing. So
yeah, but it really hurts when you don't win. But when you do win, it's kind of just like, that's kind of what I expected. But it's also like, I don't know. It's never really as good as you think it's going to be in the lead up to when you get it. Which is probably like anything. I reckon there's probably a lot of people who are like millionaires who could probably like back that up, where it's like when you get what you've worked so hard for, you realize that it's not the outcome, but it's more so that the process in a way that was the best part. But when you're doing it, it's not. That's the painful part, but it's only in hindsight you look back and you're like, that was actually like living life to its fullest. I think about all the grinding that I've done to learn all the tricks that I've ever learned. And at the time, they were the most stressful times. All my friends hated me because I was so mean to them and shit. Because I was just so stressed out. But looking back, I'm like, that's like really honestly what I would choose to do for my life. There's nothing else that I would choose to do but risk everything. Because that's like, that's just living, you know?
That's it. It's the journey. It's not
Yeah.
the goal. It's the journey to get there. And
And it sounds so
maybe
cliche. It sounds so cliche to be like, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
yeah,
But I'm starting to
but it's
think
true.
maybe that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe this year and a half, sitting on your backside with a busted wrist is this is what you're learning. This is part
Yeah.
of the process, like you said at the start of it, because I'm now at what 36, I think I am 37 this year, and I'm just looking back on, and everybody says it, and you hear it, and like you say, it's this massive cliche, but I was living my best life, but you don't know you're living it because everything's a fucking struggle and nothing's
Yeah.
easy and everything's a massive pain in the ass. And you're just like, oh, I never really achieved what I wanted to achieve, but I kind of did in another sense. Whereas I wanted to avoid the real world at all costs. Well, I definitely did that, but it was not easy. Like, Instagram
Yeah.
makes things look a lot better than what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
True.
but in saying that, I can easily look back and say that was everything, all the crashes, all the crap, screaming at myself, driving home from Clinton Moore's house every week after I didn't do another backflip to dirt. Like all of it that was the best time of my life. And
Yeah.
maybe now
Fully.
what I'm doing now, like I'm in full struggle mode right now because there's so many projects I want to get off the ground. And there's all these little pieces of the puzzle that I'm trying to put in place before I kind of come out and say, this is what I've been doing. And I don't like saying what I'm doing until I've done it,
Yeah.
until I know 100% this is going to work. And maybe when I'm 45, maybe I look back now and say, yeah, you were living like it didn't feel like it
Yeah.
because you were kicking yourself every day. Like every day I sit here thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh,
It's because
man, like
it's like there's the stress of there's nothing is like guaranteed, and you're like,
exactly.
the only thing that's going to get me to where I want to go is the work that I put in. But there's no guarantee that the work that I put in is going to get me there. But when it does get you there, you look back and you're like, fuck yeah, that was sick. That was so fun. But because when at the time when you're doing it, there's no guarantee. You're like, all this is in vain. Like nothing, never going to get there. But then all of a sudden you're just there and you're like, oh, how the hell did I get here all of a sudden? And then it's like all of a sudden 5 years and you're looking back and you're like, oh, that was pretty cool.
That's it. Yeah. Like I'd say, but the cool thing, everything that I did with freestyle, that was because it was fun. That's what I wanted to do. I want to ride my dirt bike, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah,
Doing what I'm doing now, everything's around freestyle, but I'm not riding it. And
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
bit that sucks the most. It's like I want to do it, but I can't, so I'm going to do this instead. And
yeah,
I'll try and make everything better for everyone. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But in a sense, it's kind of like, I don't want to be a millionaire. I'd love to be a millionaire, but that's not my goal. If being a millionaire was my goal, I wouldn't have started freestyle 20 years ago. That's for damn sure. How to become broke, be a freestyle rider. But I don't know, maybe what I'm doing here is sitting on my ass, looking at a laptop, looking at my phone. Hopefully all this stuff kind of works. And that's where I'm at right now. And maybe when you're 35 and you look back at this busted ass wrist and you're like, well, actually that year and a half was kind of good. I had a break and learned all this stuff and go on and you do what you do.
yeah. Fully
Kind of
can
a little
relate.
bit off topic there, but yeah.
No. I fully. Oh, yeah, that's so true for sure. I think it's what I needed. Honestly, I think it's what we all needed to just to, like reassess and like adjust. Because for me, I was going so hard. I didn't really have time. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't have time to really like plan it and like refine it. And that's what I've been able to do right now. So yeah, it's great. I'm grateful for it in a way. And just with the way that everything's worked out, I can't help but feel like that's what I needed. So it'll be interesting to see like, where I end up and whether this was like as important as I think it is, because I honestly think that it was important for me
Absolutely.
to really
Well,
even just take like because like as a human I worked so hard to get to where I was and I wanted it so bad, but it's like the value of something as a human, it's like before you have it and after you have it is way more than when you have it. So like I
yep.
wanted this career so bad before I had it, and then when I was in it and I was living it every single day, I was like kind of
Yeah.
just taking it in my stride. I'm like, it is what it is. But then having it taken away from me, looking back at what I had, I'm like, those were the days. That's what I want again. But I want to take what I had to the next level. So yeah, I think it was necessary for sure.
Absolutely. Well, all of these kind of questions kind of leads me to thinking, um, you haven't done X Games, you didn't do X Fighters, and I don't see you doing Nitro tours. Like, let's say, I don't. I guess you've done some Nitro, but you haven't done like full tours all
Yeah.
around, and like you're one of the main guys. You've not got a major energy drink sponsor on your helmet, like you said. Your tricks are unbelievable. You've got so much style. Your content is something else that we can talk about a little bit later on. Your content is unreal. What more do you have to do to prove to these guys, like at X Games? Okay, X Fighters is done and dusted. Maybe they come back. Hopefully they do. Nitro, Red Bull or Monster or Rockstar or someone like that. Do you think about that sort of stuff? Because it's like you've busted your ass and you've done these big tricks and you take it all in your stride. Is that something that's driving you now into the next stage, or you've kind of taken a step back from that, thinking, well, I don't really care? Or what, where are you feeling with all that?
Yeah, well, honestly, like I have I have emails from like 2012 before I even started freestyle properly, where I was like emailing Red Bull. I'm like, hey guys, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and this is how confident I am of where I'm going to be one day. And I'm not even asking for sponsorship right now. I just want to like introduce myself and let you know who I am, because one day I'm going to be doing big things. And and then fast forward to where I've been able to take myself, and I always had Red Bull on my radar as like I want to be a Red Bull athlete, because they're the people who make like your dreams come true in terms of like doing big crazy things. And then it got to a point where I'd put everything that I had into trying to get someone to back me in terms of like an energy drink partner. And then I like got really heartbroken and disappointed, because I'm like, no, why are they sponsoring all these other guys and not me? Because I know that I'm way better than all these dudes. And then it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I think maybe this is this is what I'm meant to experience, because like if anything, maybe an energy drink company is going to hold me back in terms of what I can and can't do. And I'm almost going to be, I look at these other riders and like they're almost owned by their sponsors. And the fact that I don't have anyone owning me is like I'm able to have 100% freedom in what I do and who I am and the way that I conduct myself. And I'm like, maybe it's a blessing in disguise in a way. So I'm at the point in my career where I'm like, if someone wants to sponsor me, if an energy drink company wants my helmet, it's like, I honestly don't want an energy drink sponsor, but if they want to pay me, then yeah, I'll do it for the right price. But I'm happy to do my own thing. And there's so many ways to make money outside of an energy drink sponsor now in terms of like content and social media and all that stuff, that it's like I'm just happy doing my own thing. And for sure, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking bad about anyone, but like I'm kind of at the point now where it's like I could kind of take it or leave it. I don't know, like, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, that was actually my next question, because that's what it seems like when in my mind when I saw that send it on a white bike at a big event. And since then, I'm just like, I think this is the way Pat's got to go. Like, in my mind, you could do so much more. Like, if you're given everything you want, maybe you've lost the drive to
Yeah.
get to go further. And without that stress, without the pressure of doing what they say you have to do or whatever it is, you own 100% of everything you do. You
Yeah,
can
I think
do
back to
whatever the
like
fudge you want.
yeah, I think back to like Evil Knievel back in the day, and like even though that was before its time and there were no energy drink sponsors or like really any sponsors, it's like he never had any sponsors on his helmet or his bike, and he made he made something like oh, the equivalent of like $100 million in his career, and it was honestly like a 10 or 15 year career. I think maybe it was a 20 year career, but it's like so he was able to do that. Then it's like it kind of shows that with a bit of creativity, you don't need to really like sell yourself. And I almost kind of look at these writers now and I'm like, maybe this is I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but I'm like I honestly believe with social media and like Netflix and streaming services these days, it's like there's huge potential to do things without having to be limited to being owned by like an energy drink sponsor. And if anything, it's like that could potentially hold you back. I don't know. That's just like that's
Absolutely.
just a quick thought that I have on it, but I don't really know how I
It's
feel about the whole thing.
it's definitely it is definitely something. Like you're right. Like an energy drink can hold you back from a different event. Um,
Yeah,
let's say, yeah, a Red Bull event with 12 monster riders is not going to happen. They may be the best 12 riders, but they're not all going to go to a Red Bull event. So, yeah, you being a complete clean skin, not a problem. Yep, come on
yeah,
in. There's Pat. Sweet. Um, but I was thinking actually more about the content side of things and like the Netflix style and all this streaming. Your content has always been good. Like you are good at what you do. Um, whether that hasn't flicked any flags, which it should have, like you know that's kind of what those big brands are looking for. I'm like, well, Pat's just doing it himself. Just go for it. Bet on yourself. And this is kind of when I was talking with Adam Jones as well. I'm like, man, you've got your own power up health CBD. Bet on yourself. Like, push your own thing. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
now he is obviously his bike's all power up, which is really cool.
Is that his
And
thing?
so, yeah,
Oh,
power
I
up
didn't know
health.
that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Adam Jones. That's his CBD oil.
And
So
see, it's
jump
like
on
that's the
there.
thing. It's like if he hadn't have gone through the adversity of losing a major sponsor, would he have had the motivation to try and build his own thing? I don't know, maybe not, because it's like there's a lot of these riders like they get put on a salary each year, and then it's like once they retire, they're still on the salary, and it's like, well, like you kind of relying on these people, and when you lose them, then it's like, oh shit, now I've got to go get a real job. But if you didn't have that to begin with, like you would have probably put more effort in to set something up for yourself or work a little bit harder. I don't know. I just can't help but feel like with how hard I've worked as hard, if not harder, than majority of the guys in my industry. And it's like if I haven't got an energy drink sponsor, then it or any major sponsor, then I don't know. Maybe that's just what's meant to happen for me in my journey, and for whatever outcome I'm going to have in the future, that's maybe what I just need to experience to get to where I need to be in life. I don't know, but I'm all right with it. Like it is what it is, and I seem to be getting by all right, doing my own thing. So yeah,
Can't complain.
yeah,
Social media, where is that in your strategy? What's your plan there? Because I know you kind of went a little bit AWOL there for a little while on social,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it
It's been
seems
hard.
like that's your thing, I guess. Videos, graphics, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I've always really been passionate about it, but making content and videos and stuff. But I honestly don't feel like I've really executed it the way that I've like imagined I wanted to. Like I guess I have like create like being a graphic designer. I've always kind of been into art and creativity. I always have a vision in my mind of what I want, and I don't feel like I've really gotten to where I want to be with it. But yeah, like I've started surrounding myself like through I don't know, I guess a series of synchronicities with the right people, and now that I'm kind of getting back on the bike, I think that I'm in a position. I've dabbled in the past with hiring filmers and flying around the world and creating YouTube content and stuff, but I never really got the traction that I needed just through, I guess, lack of experience and I guess just like with everything that I had going on, I wasn't able to give it really what it needed, but they were all like necessary learning steps in getting to where I'm going. So I think over the next 12 months, it'll be cool to see what I can do. I've got like, I think I've surrounded myself with like the right people, and it's hard to say at this point with where the world's at, what's going to happen. But yeah, I've definitely still got some really like big aspirations for where I want to take this thing. And yeah, I think it's just going to be a matter of time when I look back like in 12 months from now and see where I'm at. I think I'll definitely be like in a position to be like, whoa, that was pretty sick.
Awesome.
Going off previous experiences, it's always hard, like you plan all these things over the next 12 months and sometimes you don't achieve them all. But if you fast forward 5 years, I think you always kind of do way more than you think. Like if I go back 5 years to where I was and where my life was at 5 years ago, I've come so far. But each year I'm kind of just like, I do as much as I can, and then but it compounds over 5 years, and your life you can be a completely different person in 5 years. So 5 years from now, like yeah, I can't really even imagine where my life could be with all the plans that I have.
Well, 5 years ago, or maybe it's a little bit longer, you actually, because you were graphic designing for Custom MX. Like
Yeah,
I think you did one of my graphics kits, or maybe you did one of Clinton's or Sheeny's when I was working with
fully,
those
yeah,
guys.
fully, yeah, I did 100%. I was like working in an office like 8 hours a day at Custom MX, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I was traveling, and then I just never went back to my job ever again. It was crazy. But in saying that, it wasn't a coincidence, because before that, I was working at TNC Graphics in Sydney, and I completely uprooted my life. Me and my partner were like moved all our stuff from Sydney, 800 kilometers, to the Gold Coast, and then that's when I started building my training facility and like put all my savings into like buying ramps and building a lander and then learning the tricks that I needed to then do what I did to get overseas. But it was all like compounded over like 2 years of hard work. Then all of a sudden, it kind of all the hard work paid off. But yeah, it seemed like it was overnight, but it really was like it was actually my whole life, the lead up of my whole life of work to get to where I am. But it was always like, this is always where I envisioned myself. I never really saw myself doing anything other than freestyle, even from like a really young age. I was always just like, freestyle is what I'm going to do. I'd never had any doubt or any like passion about anything other than freestyle, which is pretty funny.
Mate, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. I can't even think of. I went to uni and I didn't even know why I was going to uni. Like it was just because I kind of had to. Not that I had to, but I didn't have a plan. What was I going to do? Go work in a company and sit in an office, which was, I kind of planned that because I knew I was going to be so sore from riding freestyle with broken bones that I needed to be sitting down all the time because I knew my body couldn't handle standing up. So I was like, who sits down? People in business. They sit in air conditioning all day and sit down. Yeah, that's kind of what I need when I'm 40. So that was the only reason I chose a business management and marketing degree. That was it. There was no bigger reason other than thinking when I'm 40, I need to sit down. but
Yeah, it's a good idea.
yeah, it worked out pretty good. I didn't really use that degree for a while, but I am now. So yeah, you were graphic designing then. You've had a year and a half off. Has that given you time to come back to PB Creative? Your graphic designs there, because I guess probably people listening to this podcast have probably heard me bang on about you making the logo for the podcast.
Yeah,
So
true.
do you do a lot of work for other people with your graphic design company, or is it just more for yourself?
Yeah, I have been actually. Like, I dabble in it. I like it. It's fun, but it's obviously not as fun as freestyle. So I do it. Like, originally, I was just doing it as a creative outlet for mates when like people like yourself needed a logo. I'm like, I genuinely like doing it, but I don't like doing it when it's a job and I have to do it 8 hours a day. That's when it takes like the fun's taken out of it when I have to do it.
Yeah.
So but yeah, during COVID and stuff, it's kind of been a cool thing to fall back on. There was like a couple of sign shops in my local city who did like vehicle wraps and stuff, and just through a series of events, kind of like hit me up to design some stuff for them, which is a pretty cool setup. Like I would do their car wraps and stuff, and they would do all the hard work of wrapping it and printing it, and I would just get to do the fun stuff of designing it. To me, that's like easy and fun, and it's pretty good like monetary return for like the effort that goes into it. But at the same time, and it's sick. Like for me, being a graphic designer is like the perfect way to market myself and like create the image that I want for myself in terms of like designing my bike graphics and my, because Canvas MX, I'm able to design my own gear and then send it to them and they print it and stuff. But in terms of doing it for a job, like, I don't know, it's not really, it's cool because when I was younger, I was like a laborer. I used to like paint houses in construction, and climbing through scaffold and stuff definitely wasn't what I wanted to do. And with the injuries I had at even a young age, I was like standing up all day, my back and my legs would ache, and I was like, all I want is an air conditioned office with a comfy chair. So that's what I did. I learned graphic
so
design.
you're the same as me.
Yeah. That was my goal. I was like, what job can I do? I'm in an office all day. So then I'm like, oh, I could be creative and sit in an office by doing graphic design. So that's what I did, and I ended up being really good at it. But yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's all right, I guess. I'm really good at it, and it's like it's really easy for me to do, but it's still kind of like I don't really feel alive when I'm doing it. So
Yeah, I know exactly what you're feeling there. I don't feel overly alive sitting at my desk looking out this window at crappy weather in Germany, but
yeah, that would be hard.
the end result is always good though. So that
That's true.
it's yeah. I am sitting down, but in saying that, I never thought about this at the time. If I thought about an air conditioned bulldozer, you get to sit down there. I probably should have.
True.
I should have taken that up. Like, you
An
know, like
air
once,
conditioned bulldozer. Well,
yeah,
they're
like
comfy
when,
as these days too.
man, like when we did Dirt Diggers, that was the best. Like I got out of the office that we had set up there, and I was just in a dozer. We got one from the company that we were, using the land from. They had a spare bulldozer. I'm like, can I just use that? And at the start, they said, oh, just for 1 hour in the lunch break. And after about 3 days, they're like, oh, just take it. So I was just sitting in the dozer. I'm like, man, why didn't I should never have gone to uni. I should have just been driving dozers. Like I'd be so pumped. But but I get coming back though to the graphic design. This is something that I struggle with a lot, and as you know, and as well, when we were doing Dirt Diggers, my graphic design, I don't have any. I do stick figures. I'm doing coloring in like a child. I have no creative juices that flow, or at least I can see in my mind what I kind of want, but I can't tell you what I want. I can't draw what I want. And so when I said to you, like, oh, I know you do graphic design, I want to start this podcast, and I want, basically the plan was at the event, we finish the event, we sit down, we have a beer. I've had two now. We have a beer and just talk about freestyle. And that was the whole idea of this podcast. And maybe a day later, you sent through the logo and you just said, as soon as I told you what I was thinking, this was the logo that popped in your mind and you did it. Like,
Yeah.
I would never have chosen straight away neon colors, pink and blue. I would never have thought of the design you did. And I was like, how the fuck did you do that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, true. I don't know. It's like, I remember when I first started graphic design, because before I did that, I was trying to be a tattooist, and I would like draw every day because I was putting together this portfolio to try and get an apprenticeship in the tattoo industry. But at the same time, I was trying to get a traineeship doing moto graphics, and I was like, whatever one takes off first, I'm just going to go with. And graphic design, like TNC Graphics, gave me like a traineeship first, and that's what I did. But I remember like first day sitting in the office, I was looking at the design program, and like if you open up Illustrator or like Photoshop, just looking at the thing's daunting. There's so many different icons and drop down menus and shit all over the screen. And I remember the first few months just like going to work every day thinking like, all I want to be able to do is figure out this program so that when I have an idea in my head, I know exactly how to like translate it onto the screen. And then that's what I'm able to do now. Like when I envision your logo, for example, I know exactly every little thing that I need to do to make that logo. And it's like, it's pretty cool. It's like kind of like the way that I ride my dirt bike. I know exactly how I want it to fly through the air because it's like an extension of my body, and the graphic design program's almost the same. Like I can just whip up something pretty easily and quickly that looks pretty sick just because I know that thing so well just by how many hours I've spent doing it. And I think working like in an actual work environment where I had to do fast turnarounds and do like changes for clients and stuff helped. I think if I had only ever learnt from YouTube videos and never had like a real like industry knowledge of how it worked, like it would be a completely different thing. But that definitely helped me having to like turn around jobs with like under like a certain amount of time and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you're probably doing jobs that you personally weren't into. So it's like, we need this design. You're like, okay, then I'll do that. And then the next client wants something else. And
having people who want like certain colors don't go together, but that's what they want. So I have to find a way to make these two colors look good in a certain amount of time. Like that, those type of things definitely test you, but they create like definitely a stronger foundation of skills.
Man, honestly, I wish I could. I think that's like one of the things that held me back is I couldn't get out what I wanted. I couldn't be creative. I can't make what I want. Like, let's say right now, to do proposals for ideas of different events or different projects I'm working on, I can't make them. Like, I have to go on Fiverr, or I have to ask someone like yourself or somebody else who understands motorbikes and graphic design to do it for me. And it's so frustrating. Like it.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, honestly.
But the problem with, sorry to cut you off, Fiverr is pretty sick though. But the problem with me is that like I've got a really, I don't know, I'm like pretty OCD in my I'm like a perfectionist. So the things that I do for myself take 10 times longer than they should. And sometimes I end up spending months in my office when I should only have spent like a couple of days.
Yeah.
But the outcome, I think, is worth it. Like when people look at some of the things that I've done, like the proposal that I put together and stuff, it's like, whoa, people like just, the elements and the amount of detail in it kind of shows like the information in the deck is one thing, but the visuals is like a whole nother thing. And it kind of acts that extra punch that not many other people could deliver. Like none of my competitors could produce something the way that I could, just because of no one's going to be able to do that for them. You can't really pay someone to do that for you unless you can do it yourself.
But it's going to cost a fortune.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I've seen some of yours and I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do that. Like, as soon as you see it, like, oh, everything looks slick. It gives the right information. You get a good feeling from it all. And you're like, okay, I understand this project just by looking at a deck. And that's something I just can't do. And it just frustrates the hell out of me. So wish I had that one. That's for sure. So I guess if anybody's wanting some creative design from PB Creative, you're going to have to come with a good project to get you excited. I'm guessing that's kind of what I've got from this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help anyone, like as long as they're, I don't know, happy to help anyone basically at the end of the day. Yeah, simple as that.
Very good, man. Well, there's one other thing I wanted to ask about. I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but I'd say there's a hell of a lot of meaning behind it. And you've got another Instagram account, I think, or is it just still on your own Pat Bowden account? The Hayabusa rebuild.
Oh, yeah.
Now for anybody, rebuilding a Hayabusa would be like a really cool project to do. Yours is a bit different. I don't know if you want to talk about it. If you don't, I
Yeah,
can
yeah, no, it's
delete.
all
I
good,
can
man.
delete
No,
this right now,
it's all
and
good.
nobody
I
hears
don't. Yeah,
about
it's
it.
all good.
But
No.
let's. Yeah, I just thought I'd throw it out there because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, so the Hayabusa rebuild, for those who don't know, Hayabusa is like a road bike, it's like the fastest production bike that was made at the time anyway. Um, it's a 1999 Hayabusa, so it's like the unrestricted model, but that was like my dad's dream bike, and he passed away riding it like a few years ago, 2016. So yeah, it was a big ordeal, like the police, because of the way that he died. There was a big police investigation, and I didn't get the bike back for a pretty long time. But that was the only really thing that I was left from my dad after he died, because there was a lot of like complications with his ex-wife and her taking pretty much everything. So that bike was like so like meaningful to me. So when I did get it, it was like pretty damaged, and I like stripped it down and like completely rebuilt the whole thing from like the ground up. It's not finished yet actually, but yeah, like stripped the motor down and cerakoted the barrels, like the brake master cylinders, powder coated the frame, replaced every single nut and bolt, and sent the suspension off to America to get like those special coatings, like nitrate coatings on the sliders and everything. So yeah, it was pretty cool. When
Really?
it's done, it's going to be like a complete show bike, but it's pretty sentimental at the same time. Like I think if Dad was around to see it, he'd be pretty like mind blown, because that bike was pretty much his pride and joy. Like before he got it, he used to have like photos and like toy models and stuff around the house, because that was like his bike that he just loved for what it meant to him. So yeah,
That's unreal,
pretty
man.
cool.
The fact that you would send suspension away to America to get that coating done, like, could
You
you
know what's
not get it done in
crazy?
Australia or
I'm
like?
gonna do it. I'm gonna do a quick shout out too. So the guy that it's not really funny, but so I sent this I got this suspension. I sent it to my mechanic to get like dismantled and completely pulled apart, and I got the top half of the forks and the rear shock anodized black and the spring powder coated, and then I sent the fork sliders over to America through this company, Moto Coat, and they were supposed to take care of getting everything tire nitrate coated, but they've just like lost the suspension. And this is almost 2 years ago. This is before COVID hit. I sent the suspension over to get done, and he's kind of like lost it, and then now he just won't respond to me. So thanks, man.
No.
And yeah, like
Oh.
and it's like for anyone else, it's like, all right, whatever happened. You lost the suspension, but the fact that this is like the only thing that I have left of my dad, and you've lost it, it's like it's pretty bad. And the fact that he won't even reply to me anymore is like even worse. So I'm like, I don't know, man.
Oh
I'm thinking
man.
about calling him out on social media soon, because it's like I now have to go and buy a new suspension to then get redone, to then get rebuilt to put in this bike, because I want it to be like perfect. But that's like a pretty big deal, like, and it's pretty expensive to do that, So yeah, it's not ideal.
That's no, that's not the nice. I mean, none of the story is overly nice. It's it's a sentimental story and a sentimental thing to do what you're doing. Um, oh, that definitely does suck though.
Yeah,
Phew. But the
it's all good though. But
rebuild
yeah, for
itself,
anyone listening, if you're into it, if you're into road bikes, go check out Project Hayabusa. I think the Instagram pages. I haven't posted anything for a while, but I was kind of documenting the build from the beginning, like stripping it
yeah,
down and getting all the stuff done and putting it back together. So go check that out. Give it a follow.
yeah. I've been following it. I I really liked what you were putting up there. Like I'm not overly into street bikes, not that much, but yeah, just watching what you're putting up, what you're doing with the every part of the bike, it just looks so good, and hopefully, it all gets rebuilt one day,
Yeah.
and you've got that show bike at the end of it all, and I'm sure your dad would be proud. Um, has it been I guess it would have been a pretty tough process getting it back the first time and starting to take it apart. Have you
Yeah, it was
felt
huge.
that kind of changing you as well as you're doing it?
Yeah, because like for me, like I never really felt like I grieved about like my dad dying because like when I found out about my dad's death, I was actually in the foam pit learning egg rolls and flares when the police actually pulled into my compound and told me what happened. I was like preparing because I had to fly to Europe the next day for like my very first night of the jumps. And they came up to my mum and told her what happened, and she was crying, and I was like kind of not paying attention. I was doing my thing, and then I looked over like 40 minutes later and the cops were still there, and I saw my mum was crying, and I went over and I was like, what the hell happened? I thought my mum had done something wrong and she was going to jail, because I was like, why else would she be crying? And then they're
Yeah.
like, we need to tell you something about your dad. And then I was like, instantly I knew what they were going to tell me. And I'm like, I kind of got the hint straight away. I was like, don't even worry about it. Like I get the hint, just like don't worry about it. And I put my helmet on and I just kept practicing flares and egg rolls. And then I didn't even let it bother me. I went to the airport the next day intending to fly over to Europe, and then I ended up missing the flight because there was an accident on the freeway. But but yeah, like after that, I kind of just never really let myself feel it because I was always just kind
Mm,
of like dad was my partner in my career, and he was like a big part of my success and trying to and like motivating me to do what I do now. So I was like, he wouldn't want me to kind of be sad. But then it was like 3 years later that I finally got the bike and started working on it, and kind of like that was my way of like dealing with it, I feel like. And I never really got sad when I was working on it, but it was just my way of like feeling close to him and kind of, I guess, grieving, not grieving, but just like coming to terms with what had happened
yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
like feeling close to him, because like that was the way that he died, on that bike. So for me to be able to pull it down and touch every single bolt and send every bolt away and get done, and then see the like the difference of when it would come back brand new shiny and then get to put it back together, that was like, and then knowing how happy he would be, like that was my way
That
of,
was his bike. That
yeah,
was
that was
his
like my
dream
way
as
of just
well.
like feeling it,
Yeah.
which was
Man,
kind of cool in a way. Without that, it probably
that's
wouldn't have been the same. I probably never really would have dealt with it properly.
that's so gnarly. And yeah, I think you're probably right. Um, I think it sounds like it's probably the best project you could be doing. Put it that way.
Yeah.
It's gnarly to hear that you just kept riding and block out that and go get on the plane the next day. But in saying that, as gnarly as it sounds, I know exactly what, not exactly because it's a little bit different, but I think 5 days after my dad passed away, I did my first ever show
Yeah, right.
at the Speedway in Maryborough. I think it was 5 days, maybe it was 6 days or something like that. And I don't know if I even told the guys who were riding the show with me, like Pete Anderson, and I think Bayard was there and Sam Dionysius.
Yeah.
I think it was us four that did that show. Maybe I did tell them. I don't know, but um, yeah, it was just like just got to do the show. Like show must go on, and I'd never even done a show before. Like I don't even know why I did it. I'd been building up to that, and he was there helping me like get to that point, and I was like, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
well,
yeah, true. It
you
probably
just
would have
do it,
been
and
different, like a different scenario if, like, some people don't have supportive parents, and
yeah,
I think maybe if, yeah, if you didn't have supportive parents when your parents died, like it probably would. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I just know for me, like it was like it wasn't my thing. Freestyle, it was our thing. Like he put all of his time and money into getting to me to where I was through my racing career and stuff, and I felt like I owed it to him to not be a little bitch and cry and not do my event when I was like, I've worked my whole life to get to this point just because he's died. Like he would want me to keep going and doing it. So I didn't really have a choice but to go and do it. And yeah, like I remember because Nitro World Games, my first World Games, 2016, was only a few months after he died. I think so. He died in May 2016, and World Games was in August, I think. So it was like a few months later. And I remember, like, if you watch the footage on the run up to do the rule of front flip, I take my hand off the handlebars and I look up and point at the sky, and then look down and then hit the ramp and do a rule of front flip. And I remember that the commentator's like, as I'm riding towards the ramp, he's like, "Oh, and he salutes the crowd." And I remember watching that footage and being like, "Nah, I wasn't saluting the crowd. I was honestly pointing to the sky and being like, 'This is for you, Dad. Like, I dedicate this to you.'" And it was pretty cool. I landed the trick and got to celebrate and party afterwards. But yeah, it was pretty cool because, like, that was at that point in time, that was like the pinnacle of my life and my sporting career of where I'd gotten to, and it was kind of like thanks to him. So yeah,
that's crazy. That is so nuts. All that pressure and everything you said before, like probably an hour ago now. About 10 days of training on that one trick, plus that on top. I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't really tell anyone. I didn't talk about it. It's kind of what it's just I don't know. It's just what it was.
Yeah. So how far along with the build are you into then?
It's like pretty much, well, if I get the suspension back from America, I'll be a bit better off. But I had to buy some other suspension off the internet just for the meantime to, like, be able to put the frame together. But I've got the frame and the wheels, like the new tires, everything, all the parts are pretty much done. I could put the motor in the frame and have a rolling chassis. I've just got to get the fairing resprayed and just like some little bits and pieces like nuts and bolts and things. But majority of it's done. It's like sitting in my garage right now. It looks, the engine's on the engine stand and it's like brand new. It's the motor, like the bike's sitting there on its wheels. It's on a stand, but the frame just needs to go in the motor, and then I just need to kind of like get all the little bits and pieces together, like the wiring loom and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just figured why, like, because I've already put over 10 grand, maybe 15 grand into it, just in terms of getting like things coated and like getting it looking nice. And I don't know, it's going to probably cost another 10 grand to get it to where I need it to be. So I'm like, well, I'm not making heaps of money. I'm not going to be spending heaps of money on it, you know. I'm just going to kind of put it on hold for now.
Far out, man. Well, I hope you start putting a fair bit more on that Instagram account whenever it works out, of course. But it's been cool to follow that journey. So what? For sure. I can't remember what did you say it was, the account?
Oh, Project Hayabusa.
There he is. Project_Hayabusa. Is that the one?
Yeah.
No. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. Yep, there it is. Yep, the Heat Seeker 99 Suzuki Hayabusa overall project. Project dedicated to Scott Bowden.
Yeah.
Mate, that's awesome. Yeah, I think everyone would be pretty pumped. Like, if you're into motorbikes, like we are, yeah, check it out and see what you're up to.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Maybe we should get back onto a little bit more positive stuff. I think I'm actually, like, I'm kind of, every episode's getting longer and longer. Like, we're well past 2 hours here. I'm sorry if this is, sorry if I've wasted your night.
Oh, you haven't wasted my night. No way.
But anyway, no.
I just wonder how many people are still listening at this point.
Oh, I'd be surprised if anyone is. No, actually, the funny thing is, these get listened to like almost the entire thing, like by everyone.
That's good.
I don't overly trust the statistics for these podcasts. Like, it seems that Apple and Google and Spotify and everyone, like, I don't know, the stats don't really seem overly accurate. But the one stat that kind of keeps coming through is people are listening, which thank you so much. If you're still listening now, thank you. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy it every time, because I think every time, like, I'm talking to guys like yourself and everyone, like, you start getting all this detail, the stories that you just won't get anywhere else. And to get your motivation behind why you do something, it's definitely cool. So no, hopefully after 2 hours, hopefully people are still here.
Well, if you're still listening, g'day, mate.
G'day, mate.
Well, I wonder what you're doing. What could you possibly be doing if you're listening right now? maybe you're on a road trip going somewhere and you're like bored as hell, or like maybe you're like, I don't know, working in
I
a
was,
bulldozer or something.
yeah, like I kind of think, would you listen to it to go to bed? Like, I feel like going to
Maybe.
sleep. I'm gonna put on Steve and see who he's talking to this time, and yeah, that'll get me to bed. Like, maybe the stats are quite good because like their phone just keeps playing while they're
Yeah.
asleep, so it's just going until it stops, and like, oh yeah, no, man, all these podcasts are getting listened to. No, I don't know. I never listened to podcasts before I even did this, so it's all very new and different
I
for
put
me.
podcasts on when I leave the house for my dogs. So maybe that's
For
why.
your dogs,
Yeah, just so there's like background noise and people talking because they get real bad anxiety when I leave.
really?
Yeah, because they're dash hounds, and I like dash hounds get real bad separation anxiety because they're like little, I guess they're like pack animals or something. Germans, crazy, I don't know, some crazy Germans probably. But yeah, I had one dash hound, and then he used to like eat my door frames, and I'd come home and there'd be like wood everywhere and my skirting boards. So then I had to get another one, and they kind of keep each other company. But I had these cameras set up in my house, and when I'd leave, they'd just be like howling all day. So then I'd leave the TV on for them and I'd play some Joe Rogan, and they kind of just chill out a little bit more.
Really?
Yeah,
And when you say you're leaving, like just for the day or like you, this is kind
just
of another
yeah.
thing. Yeah. Well, firstly, is it just for a day or is it a week or what are you
Oh
thinking?
yeah, no, I don't leave my dogs for a week because I just like if I
Okay.
have to go out for a couple of hours, I'll just put like a 2 hour podcast on and come back and
Yeah.
it's still playing and they'll just be chilling kind of thing.
Good answer because I was like, I hope he doesn't leave him there for a week. This is one thing that I also think of because I don't have pets and I don't have kids because we're always on the road doing what we're doing. And what do people like yourself who, okay, you've got a couple of dogs, what do you do when you're on the road? Where do they go? Do you have family that take them? Do you put them in a
Oh yeah,
shelter?
well, I just had my missus that would take care of them. That's kind of why I got the dogs too, was to like keep her company while like I was
Yeah,
away. But yeah, yeah.
fair call.
But then going through COVID and stuff, like I haven't been traveling and whatnot, so it hasn't really been a problem.
No, no. Now hasn't been a problem. They're probably like, okay, you can go now.
Yeah, but I haven't. I got to figure. I got to figure something out for when I travel again. But I haven't really had to
Yeah,
worry about that yet. So cross that bridge when I get to it.
yeah. Fair enough. Like I always wonder, like, let's say, well, for kids, you're not going to leave them in a dog shelter. Um, so I'm
Yeah,
like,
the good thing about dogs
what
is you can
people
just kind of like
do? Like,
just leave them with people, I guess, because like how hard really is a dog to take care of, especially a small dog. You kind of just feed it and like cuddle it every now and then it's pretty happy. But a
yeah,
kid, you got to do heaps of stuff.
that's why I don't have kids.
Yeah, same.
We actually did have a pet galah a long time ago. And for those of you not from Australia, a galah is kind of like it's a cockatoo. It's a pink cockatoo. And old Chewy, I think Rach and I went away for like 2 days, maybe 3 days. We gave it to our friend Joel and Karen, and they said, please don't ever bring that bird back here again because he would wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and galahs just go nuts. Like in the morning and evenings, they're just squawking and screeching. I don't know where that word came from. Squawking, screeching, carrying on. And they're like, oh man, we can't sleep with that bird here. So that was kind of the end of poor old Chewy having anywhere to go because I thought people aren't going to deal with this loud, crazy cockatoo or galah just going off. But a dog, yeah, seems easier.
Yeah, especially when they're real cute.
Yeah, man, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. I do want to say thank you so much for jumping on. It has
Yeah, no
been
worries.
good to catch up again, and
Yeah,
I
it has
really
been.
hope that wrist does come good because I guess your next event, if it all works out, will be Freestyle Kings
Yeah.
in a month. Exactly, almost exactly 1 month right now.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
how confident are you of getting to that show?
Oh, I'm like 100% confident.
Okay, okay. So there you
I
go,
mean, I've already
Newcastle.
ridden. Yeah, I've already ridden last or 2 weeks ago, and if you check out my Instagram, like I posted some stuff from there. I did all my usual tricks like Christ air flips and 360 knacks and stuff. So if I could do that then in 1 month from now, I'm only going to be able to do more stuff. So I'm pretty confident.
So that break you said you were going to have isn't going to be so much of a break to let that wrist heal.
Well, I figure from where it's at now, like if I give it, it's already been like kind of a week. It's been 2 weeks since I was in Sydney, so it'll be about a month by the time I'll probably get on the bike about a week before that show. So it'll have been another month since that last ride I had, and I think that will probably be enough for to be able to get through the show. The show's only going to be like maximum like I don't know 20 jumps or something, so should be able to get the job done. Plus,
Mate,
I kind of
you're
need to be there to support the boys like Josh and Freestyle Kings. That's their first. It's like a pretty big deal because it's Freestyle Kings live, so it's him hosting his own event in a stadium that he's hired himself, and like he's the promoter of it. So it's like I'm one of the main guys and one of his closest friends. So it's like I want to be there to support it. So even if I was struggling with my wrist, I'd still do my best to ride.
absolutely. Well, actually, I was talking to him just the other day, and I did ask him that question, like, is this all you, or are you working with another promoter? He's like, nah, it's all me. Like, this is a big deal. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh,
He's
that's
gone all in.
massive.
Yeah, he's gone all in. It's like if this is a flop, it's like he's put everything on the line. But so far, I think it's going to work for him because he's just going off like pre-sale tickets and everything. It's like he's already kind of in the clear. So, but that's just the type of person he is. He's all in. Like he's always been like that with everything that he's done from riding to business. So, and it seems to always work for him just because of the way that he goes about things. He's very calculated and headstrong. So, I think that he has the potential to really take it to the next level.
If you're not like really needing to run and go to bed or something because it's probably getting late there, I would like to ask because you said that compound was the where you met him and where you met
Yeah,
Ash and kind of where everything started.
yeah,
And you've been on this journey actually with Freestyle Kings, and I was just talking to Squibby about this actually the other day as well. Seemed to be talking about everything with him, and we were like, yeah, it went from the Newcastle show, which we're talking about, which is in 1 month, then the tour of I think 5 locations in Queensland he's
yeah.
just put out. And I was like, oh shit, like this is escalating. This is getting bigger. This is getting
Yeah,
bigger and bigger really fast.
fully. Yeah,
And then we were like this dude, like Josh, I remember because I think he bought the landing from Jacko Strong, um, like the first one for Freestyle Kings ages ago. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong and I've got my stories mixed up, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Um, and then to see him grow it, if I'm wrong, then it is what it is. But whatever he's done, he's grown it from zero to doing these massive like Chinese deals, and there's shows
mm,
all over everywhere. Like everywhere you look now, that every rider pretty much has got a Freestyle Kings logo. Like,
yeah,
and you were that, like, you met him right at the very start and you're still part of that team. And I'm
yeah,
just thinking this show in Newcastle in the middle of COVID, well, okay, Australia's doing incredibly well, so I guess that event will happen anyway. But the team behind Freestyle Kings, you and Ryan Brown and like
yeah. All the boys.
all the riders, and you're all kind of friends, and you're all invested in making this thing grow anyway. Like it can't fail. That's kind of the where I got to in my mind.
Yeah, fully. Yeah, yeah. He's got all the backing of all the riders, and I think it's because he is a rider himself. It's not like there's no trust issues because if anything, he wants safety, just as an example, to be like the way that any other rider would want it. Whereas in my experience, like growing up, starting my career in freestyle, like certain promoters would just want the job done, and then like at all costs. So that's where like danger would come into it. But Josh is like a rider; he's easy to get along with, and that's why he's able to get every rider kind of on his team and run the logo, because he's a good dude and easy to work with. But I remember like when I made the decision to really go 100% with freestyle, I was working at TNC Graphics, and this is when Josh was living down in Wagga Wagga, in yeah, with pretty much he moved to Wagga Wagga and moved in with his girlfriend, and this was to like ride with Truman Carroll and Jacko Strong every day to try and get somewhere with freestyle. And at the same time, Jacko was building a portable landing, and it was just on like a car trailer. And Jacko offered to kind of like help Josh with the landing. And so Josh was like, yeah, righto. And I remember sitting out the back of Josh's house. He was living at his girlfriend's house at the time in Wagga, and he was working as a plumber, like digging holes and playing with people's shit all day. And I was doing graphic design, and I wasn't really satisfied with what I was doing. We're sitting out the back, and we're like, man, we need to really just like put our heads down and make this happen. And at that time, he'd just come up with the name Freestyle Kings with his partner, and he'd just like done this deal with Jacko to get this portable landing, and then he bought a truck and took this landing off the back of this trailer and put it on the truck and kind of extended it and made it a little bit bigger and better. And at the same time, I remember that conversation that we had. We were sitting out the back of his girlfriend's house, and she had like a tennis court in the backyard, and it was made out of just like telegraph poles and some wire. And I remember looking at it and thinking, man, I could make a foam pit, I reckon. So then, like from that day, because I took the Friday off from work to go down and ride with Jacko and Josh, and then I remember thinking, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a foam pit. And my mum had my mum had 100 acres up in New South Wales on the border of Queensland. So I remember quitting my job, organising a new job in Queensland, moving my whole life from there up to Queensland, and then like spending all my savings in buying all the equipment that I needed to build a foam pit. And it all kind of stemmed from that one conversation that we had. And then, so like at that same time, he went and did the Freestyle Kings thing. I went and did my like freestyle competition and like performance deal. And we've kind of progressed at the same rate to the point where now he's like running this business and it's like fully established and off the ground. And he's done like these massive deals, international deals with like Chinese circuses, and like we've done huge events like Jake Paul's party in Temecula, in like Beverly Hills, and I've done all the stuff I've done, and then Ash is kind of doing what he's doing with a video game, and it's like it's all kind of progressing at the same rate. But it's cool because we all met at the same place at the same time when we were kids, so it's like it's a pretty tight knit thing, and it's really cool to be able to share it with these two other dudes. And like, I don't think that this is the end. I honestly believe that like there's still a pretty long way to go, and it's going to be cool to look back one day and see the journey that we've all made together. And we've all been like we've all played a significant role in each other's lives to kind of help each other and feed off each other. Like Ash was there when I did my first Cali roll and made that video, and like, yeah, we've all kind of helped each other. So it's really cool.
Man, that's crazy. That's so funny how it all links together.
Yeah. And just the way that I met them all too, like I could have met anyone, but I met with those guys at the very start of my career. But without those guys, like I probably would be where I am now because I would have found a way. But those were just the perfect guys to link up with at that age when I was like 15, because they were just as hungry as I was to get to where we are now. But it's like without those guys, it would have just been like a lonely road to where I am now.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you've all got that shared vision and you're all making it happen. And it's cool that, you've done it your way. You're winning competitions and you're going to all these events and you're just touring your backside off in terms of like the individual side of things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Josh, he's gone crazy with tours and setting it up for everyone. And now Ash with TIMX. This is motocross.
But we're all as committed as each other. I remember like when I was younger, when I was 15, 16, 17, Ash was producing his first movie back when he was in filmmaking, like the Choose Your Fate movie. He did Choose Your Fate 1 and 2. No, he did. What was the Adrenaline Choose Your Fate was the second one. but he made 2 DVDs back when DVDs were a thing. And I remember traveling around Australia filming with like Bilko and Reese Hillier and like Steve Minnie and all the like the major guys in Australia at the time. But he was doing that at 19 off his own back, like with his own money, just because he was so committed and passionate. And then I remember Josh was the same. Like he would go out to like we'd drive 4 hours out to Mudgee to like try and learn to backflip in Steve Minnie's foam pit, and then it would get out there and it was raining, and then I remember this one day he did like 2 backflips into the foam pit, and on the second one he like it was in the middle of it was pouring down rain. He did 2 backies, and then on the second one dislocated his knee into the foam pit, and then that was the last one that he got to do before the AUFMXC Underground Tour started. And then
Yeah.
we drove up to Rockhampton from Sydney, and then he did his first 75-foot backflip on a 254 stroke to dirt after only doing 2 into the foam pit and didn't land either of them, but then did it to dirt just
No
because
way.
he just loved freestyle that much and like was just so committed. But we all three of us were just that committed, and then yeah, just to see where it's all kind of played out to now, it's pretty sick. It's pretty special actually.
Man, it's gnarly. Like the crazy thing is, it's kind of cool right now, looking at what's about to happen in Australia for events, and your pictures on pretty much every event. There's the Inverted Festival. There is the Freestyle King show. Well, first when they said Newcastle, now there's going to be a tour. There's the Nitro World Games a little bit later in the year. I guess are you in District X as well? That's another one that's going on. And I just
Yeah, I
see
did
your
have my
picture
name
on
down
all of
for it.
them.
I
Yeah,
did
I
have
just
my
see
name
it.
down for it,
Pat's
but
there.
it's like it's around the same time as World Games, so I was like, I'm going to be pretty busy, and it's like it's literally I think the weekend before it, before World
Yeah.
Games. So I'm like, I'm probably going to be like have my head down practicing these tricks, and it's a pretty stressful time of the year, World Games. So I pulled out of that one, but
No,
yeah,
I mean it's
but yeah,
cool to
we're pretty
see.
lucky
Like,
over here in Australia. It seems like we've got a pretty good year, like rest of the year ahead of us. So that's like it's a bit of like a relief to know that the world seems to be like going back to normal, at least in Australia anyway. And
wow,
I reckon I get the vibe that even after last weekend when we were in Sydney and all the boys were there doing all the trains, just the vibe that we got on Instagram and like social media, it seemed like everyone was kind of feeding off that. And that's what we kind of all needed to see. Because it doesn't seem like many people have been writing or posting content, even though no one's been injured or anything, just because of the vibe of the world. But like
yeah,
seeing all the boys together and writing, I kind of get the vibe that the more that we do this, the more the rest of our industry is going to like feed off us, and that's maybe what we need to kind of just kickstart this thing back up again. And I feel like that's yeah, like the whole world's in a weird situation at the moment, and I kind of feel like I don't know what I can't really speak for other countries, but in Australia anyway, it's like things seem almost back to normal, but there's something missing. It kind of just feels like everyone's waiting for something. Everyone's waiting to be told what to do, but
yeah.
there's no reason. It's like we could really honestly just start living a normal life again, but everyone's kind of like scared, or like we're like all being like subconsciously controlled by something, but we don't know what it is. But it's
Well, you
like if
don't want
we
to
were
be
able to
like it
just
here.
yeah, no, like I don't want to speak for you guys or anything because I know it's pretty serious over there, but I kind of just feel like we need to pick up like the vibe a little bit more, and I feel like if we could do that, then everyone's going to kind of feed off it, and that's going to kind of get the ball rolling again.
Yeah, it seems like Australia did do the right thing at the start of it all and shut the borders. As crap as that was, it was the right thing. But the good thing is now, yeah, you guys locked down there on one island in one country. Um, it kind of looks like things are going back to normal. Events are being posted, and on like you can have events. What like that straight away? That's crazy right now. There's
Yeah,
no chance you can do anything like that over here.
crazy.
And you've got all these big ones, and I guess the why I kind of brought it up was like Inverted Festival. That's a massive deal with some big people behind it. Nitro World Games, big people behind it, And then, you got Freestyle Kings where Josh is running it off his own back. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty special to see. And, I really hope that works well. And I guess, you got a month. Get your wrist a little bit better and throw down.
Yeah. Fucking oath.
Fucking oath.
I'm excited.
No worries. All right, mate. Well, thank you so much for that. And I can't wait to actually catch up with you again when we can start traveling the world. And
I hope it can go back to somewhat how it was in the old days, because they were so much fun, living life to the fullest and chilling out with the boys.
Yeah, I can't wait to get some more bottles of champagne from you from another Best Whip comp win. I guess we're going to have to wait until about 2025 at this rate, but I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to have to learn how to whip again.
Yeah, well, sounds like that double backflip modification to your bike didn't help. So you're going to have to keep going normal, I think, mate.
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Too easy. All right, mate. Well, you have a good night there, and we'll talk soon.
See you, man.
Wow, I can't believe you got to the end. Well done. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode with Pat Bowden and that you picked up a few things here or there as well. I will have links to his accounts in the show notes, so make sure you check out those and go and follow them all. Drop Pat a message and say hi. I'm sure he'd be stoked to hear from all of you. If you like this episode and you're wondering if there are any more like it, well, you can easily follow or subscribe in your podcast player that you're listening to this on right now, and most of them will automatically download episodes that you haven't listened to before. If it doesn't and you've got a crappy player, well, you might have to do it manually. But either way, at least you've got so many more hours of listening to some pretty interesting humans talking about dirt bikes while you're hopefully working on your bike in the workshop or wherever you might be right now. If you are in the workshop, you'll probably be wondering why you don't have a Tannenzäpfler alcohol-free beer while you're working on your bike right now. I think they actually created this alcohol-free version for that specific job. When you're doing a rebuild and you don't want to get buzzed and get to the end of putting your bike together and realize you've got 3 bolts left over and the bearings are still sitting in the plastic because you forgot to put them in. So make sure you grab yourself a box of Rothaus Tannenzäpfler alcohol freeze as your brain juice while you're working in the garage next time. And if you have any questions or comments for Pat or any other rider or industry insider you want to hear from, let me know. You know where to find us. We're in Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, ridersloungepodcast.com website. And if you don't know how to find them, all of those links are also in the show notes. So thank you again so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you soon on the next Riders Lounge podcast.